My fiancé, who was a 25-year-old woman, dumped me, a 26-year-old man, on Tuesday. Today, she tells me she wants the apartment to herself tomorrow for her Valentine's Day. This was originally posted the day before Valentine's, 2014, February the 13th, of course. I'll try to keep this short because I'm so stunned, I think I've stopped being able to process things. I've been with my fiancé for 4 years. We've been engaged since last year and have been actively planning the wedding. Last month, we moved to a new city across the country because my fiancé got an amazing job offer. I wasn't happy about it since I had to quit my job and all our family and friends were in the city we left. I was kind of a jerk during the moving process, but I've come around since getting here. My fiancé kept talking about this guy, late 20s maybe, she worked with at her new job, and it made me uneasy. I went to a few after-work events where he showed up, and he seemed like a total jerk, very full of himself, artistic type. I didn't like the way he interacted with my fiancé, and we would occasionally fight about it. Tuesday night, she got home really late, sat me down, and broke up with me. She said she felt an immediate bond with this co-worker that's stronger than anything she's ever felt before. This from the woman who just a few months ago I held in my arms while watching the stars, as she told me she's never felt more at peace than when she's beside me. I laid awake on the couch all night, feeling like I was continually being punched in the stomach. I didn't fall asleep until 3 p.m. yesterday, and I stayed asleep until this morning when she woke me up. Basically, she's having this jerk over for Valentine's Day and demanded she get the apartment to herself. Between the move, all the deposits we've been putting for wedding stuff, and not having a job since we moved out here, I literally have no money for a hotel or anything else. We got into a big fight because I called her out and said she knew I had nowhere else to go. She said that's not her problem. She's done solving my problems for me. What? And that I needed to fix this one on my own. I guess his roommate is having a date over, so my fiancé offered our place for her date with the jerk. She says this is happening no matter what I say. So yeah, what the heck am I supposed to do? Oh my goodness me, this woman might be one of the most savage people I've ever come across on Reddit. Talk about not having a heart. That's unbelievable. All right, let's jump into some comments. I can kind of guess what people are going to say. Oh no, heck no. You're going to park your butt on the couch tomorrow and you're going to refuse to move come heck or high water. Do not leave. What a heinous move on her part. Exactly. OP said, I basically told her I'd refuse to move tomorrow, but she then said this man was coming over no matter what. Well then, they're going to have to deal with having a romantic date with another dude sitting on the couch, aren't they? I can't emotionally handle seeing her date another man right in front of me in our home. I understand I would F up their night, but I think I'd shatter on the spot seeing them together. Yeah, it's a tough one for OP. Obviously, you don't want to be forced out of your own home because this I just can't even put into words what is going on here. But yeah, you can't just leave. But then again, you don't want to see that either in your own home. Crazy situation. Now, people asked, why can't they go somewhere else? OP actually said, I asked why it had to be here. His roommate is using his place for the date. That's why, apparently. I asked then why couldn't it be at a restaurant or a hotel or anywhere else? And then all she could do was talk about the ways I failed her in our relationship and that this time she wasn't going to fix things for me. What is she on about? Somebody else then said, she's doing this intentionally, by the way. She's got something to prove. To herself, to you, to the other guy, I'm not sure, but it's about more than this date. I had to live with my ex for months due to being in a situation similar to yours. I started seeing other people, but always went out. That's what any decent person would do. Don't cave. Have a party, as others have suggested. She doesn't deserve any satisfaction from this. OP said, this is so true. You should have seen her face as we got fighting over this. Goodness me, I mean, what a woman. I can't believe the situation. Anyway, a couple of edits from OP. I appreciate everyone telling me I should stand my ground. I told my fiancé I'm not leaving, but I don't think it's a threat I can carry through with. I will be emotionally devastated if I have to watch the woman I love and care for more than anyone else date someone right in front of me in my own home. Other suggestions would be appreciated. He then said, thank you for all your suggestions. I can't keep up with them all. It's almost overwhelming given everything that's going on in my life right now. I'm going to take a walk and try and clear my head. I just can't bring myself to tell my family and friends what's happened. It's so embarrassing. I like the ideas about trying to reach a compromise. I've got a lot to think about. A couple of comments below this say, don't go. Is your name on the lease? Fight this Grinch. If I knew where you lived, I might come over and be your date. That's how much I think you should stand your ground. OP says, my name isn't on the lease since I didn't have a job when we moved out and my credit isn't the best. We thought it would be safer if she put her name on the lease since she's employed and has better credit. Somebody else said, go home. Is there someone you can stay with there? If your name isn't on the lease, just get out and go no contact. OP said, plane tickets back home are insanely expensive. It's money I just don't have right now. Somebody suggested borrowing from your parents. Surely they'll understand, given that you're in dire straits. But OP said, honestly, I've not been able to bring myself to tell them what's happened. I'm so ashamed and embarrassed about it. Which, by the way, I fully understand. It's not as if OP's done anything wrong here at all. But imagine having to tell your parents, oh yeah, by the way, my fiance just broke up with me because she's just met somebody else at work. And now I need to leave our flat because she wants to bring him round tomorrow for Valentine's Day. It's just like, you just can't say that to your parents. So I understand where he's coming from. However, 1 year later, on Valentine's Day itself, 2015, we got this update. I, a 27-year-old man, have spent the last year working very hard to improve myself. Now that it's Valentine's Day again, I was thinking about what a dark place I was in last year. I didn't have the strength to post an update back then, but now that I've had some time to heal, I wanted to let everyone know how I'm doing. Thank you all to everyone who helped. You were the only support I had last year, and it meant the world. Part of the reason I didn't update afterwards was because I was extremely embarrassed with how things turned out. It's only because of some intense therapy that I'm able to be honest and okay with telling this story. Basically, I decided to make one last big attempt at winning her back. Oh no. Okay. Right after we got engaged, my ex had a close relative succumb to a long-time illness. This relative was very happy that she lived long enough to see us get engaged. When my ex was a child, this relative had given my ex a charm that she wore all the time. A few months after the relative died, my ex lost the charm, and it was like the relative died a second time. As we packed up the apartment to move to the new city, I found the charm. Rather than give it back immediately, I decided I'd keep it in a safe place and surprise my ex with it at our wedding. I thought it would be a meaningful way to include this relative in a moment where she would be deeply missed. Somehow, I got it in my head that if I showed her the charm on Valentine's Day, she'd remember everything that we shared and that I could cut through whatever fog she was caught up in. I was under the impression that my ex would come home after work by herself to get the place ready for her date. Oh no. I was planning to use this alone time to give her the charm and either win her back or lose decisively and leave before her date showed up. But instead, she showed up with the jerk from her job. That threw me through a loop big time, and it was incredibly awkward. He was patronizing. She became livid that I stole her charm. I struggled to articulate myself. It was the most embarrassed I've ever been. Yeah, I'm not surprised. I got out of there and literally walked around all night until it got so cold I couldn't stand it anymore. I went back to the apartment building at around 4 a.m. and in what was a personal low point, I fell asleep in the hallway outside my apartment. But that was the low point. There have been high points since then. I was able to move back to my hometown and my old employer gave me my old job back. I even met someone else and we dated for a while. We just broke up though. It sucks to be alone again on Valentine's Day, but I've learned it's okay to be sad every once in a while. And compared to last year, this year's practically a celebration. Therapy gave me a wonderful perspective on life and some great coping skills for when times get difficult. As for my ex, I heard she married the jerk guy from work. Her sister would text me occasionally, and apparently her family hates the guy. Whatever, it's not my problem anymore. Lastly, I want to thank everyone on Reddit sincerely. People offered to buy me a ticket home. Other people offered to hang out with me if we happened to be in the same city. Some people even offered just to Skype with me so I could have someone to talk to. Even though I didn't respond, your messages meant so much to me. Thank you. I mean, what a story. What a story. I mean, it's great that the people of Reddit were fantastic, once again, as they often are, and very supportive of OP, but can you imagine, like, I don't want to get graphic here, but going back to your apartment that you share with your fiance, or since 24 hours ago, your ex-fiance, not going in because you know that she's in there with a new guy doing God knows what, but you know what I mean. I don't understand how you can be with somebody and then just like that, they flick and they're like, actually, you know what? No, I actually don't love you. And I like this new guy. And I'm actually so horrible as a person to kick out somebody I've just been with for 4 years, like on a whim, and then sleep with this brand new guy in our apartment. Like, what is going on there? Again, maybe you dodged a bullet. I say this often, but at the moment you can't really see that. But if you were with somebody that could do that in like the flick of a switch, probably a good thing that you've moved on. It's good that you knew you had your low point there outside at 4 a.m. It was never going to get lower than that, and now you're doing better. But goodness me, crazy story and crazy woman. Really weird things are happening to me, a 22-year-old woman. I'm not sure if it's an elaborate prank or if I'm seriously mentally ill. This was originally posted on November the 24th, 2015. Okay. I've never ever felt the need to post here, but I feel like I'm losing my mind. I don't even know where to start. My mind is so jumbled. I guess it started 2 weeks ago at work. I work in a factory, but I don't do the labor. I'm more of a spreadsheet maker / book balancer / secretary type thing. Really informal, but it's my uncle's company and I needed a job, yada yada, good pay. I was sitting at my desk with nothing to do, and I hear my boss, not my uncle, just another co-worker and a friend of his, go, Phil sighs as he looks at the weather. I look up like, huh? And he looks at me like, huh? He didn't say anything. I was like, that's weird, but oh well. Anyway. And then the next day, I was talking to some co-workers on the floor, asking them some work stuff, and one of them called me a female dog. But when I called him out, him and everyone else looked at me like I was insane. I apologized and we all laughed it off. The factory's loud, right? People mishear things all the time. Except, I was at Walmart, I know, classy, and one of the workers there was putting away stock, and I swear to God, he looked straight at me and said, the chicken was just killed. But I asked him what he meant, and I felt so bad because he looked so confused and like I was crazy. He hadn't even opened his mouth apparently. Stuff like this has been happening so much, my friend even pulled me aside to ask if I was feeling okay. Small things are happening too. My boyfriend says he's making salmon for dinner. I hear him preparing salmon. I smell salmon. Then he brings it out and it's lasagna. I asked him where the salmon was and he was like, what? I said lasagna tonight, and brushed it off like I'm being silly. I could have sworn this one shirt that I owned was green and not teal. Stuff is changing and people are saying stuff, but they're not. People are narrating their lives sometimes. There's no way my friends could be pranking me, not when random people on the street are doing this too. I'm so scared. I don't want to be thrown in a mental hospital. I'm not trying to offend mentally ill people, I'm so scared. I feel like my mind is slowly melting. Goodness me, that is terrifying stuff. Let's jump into some comments first of all, see what people are saying before we get into the update. Somebody said, you should go to the doctor, not just because there might be a physical or mental issue going on that needs to be addressed, but also so you can get an answer of what is going on. Don't keep yourself in limbo. That will actually drive you insane. Yeah, that's a good point. Doctors aren't your enemy, and even if there's a mental issue going on, that doesn't automatically mean you get thrown into a mental hospital just like that. You've probably been around more people with mental disorders than you realize, and the vast majority of them can live a relatively normal life and live independently with some medical and or psychiatric help. Go to the doctor. They are the professionals here. Good advice from this person. OP replied saying, thank you, I'm in Canada and I've made an appointment with my doctor. It'll be a week before I see her though. I can't believe how much this post has blown up. It happened again last night. My boyfriend said he was going to the bar. I shower and come out and ask why he's still here. He says, because I live here? I thought you were going to the bar, I reply. No. Maybe I'll go to the ER if it keeps happening. Somebody else then replied to that saying, not to terrify OP, but this happened to my mother as well, and it was a brain tumor for her. This seriously calls for a doctor as soon as possible. Somebody else said, Yep, sounds pretty similar to a friend. Go get it checked. It's scary. But my friend is doing a whole lot better now. That is crazy. And yes, that's very terrifying. As I said, we'll get into the update, but it does sound to me like OP can't wait for a doctor's appointment. You've got to go to A&E, go to the ER as quickly as possible. But yeah, something very, very bad is going on here that is really affecting your brain. Anyway, 5 days later, we got the following update. Wow. Wow. I never could have ever in my wildest imagination thought that my last post would get this much attention. I was on my boyfriend's Reddit account on his phone and actually saw my own post near the first page. I was floored. Then he saw what I was looking at and we had a pretty awkward conversation. Basically, he asked me why I posted something like that. He'd read it, but only when he saw me on the page, it clicked that he saw the same username on my laptop on Reddit. He never imagined it was me. I did change some details about my life in the last post. So we talked for a long time, and finally he said that he was taking me to emergency. I didn't want to go. I just wanted to wait for my appointment. Not because I didn't think it was serious, but because I had no clue how to explain what was happening to the doctors and nurses, especially for it to warrant an emergency visit. Really? Can't you just say that your brain is going crazy and things are happening in your brain that aren't actually happening in real life? I mean, that's pretty serious, no? Anyway, we went and he was very understanding. Just asked me how much I remembered from the past couple of days. Stuff he said and stuff I'd apparently heard. Me and my boyfriend were both scared. So I got to emergency. Very slow. I live in a smallish town, but we have a giant hospital for some reason. We're close to a lot of other towns and they use our hospital. Close to Toronto too. Anyway, it was slow. Just one father and a sick child. I went in and basically had to explain what was happening, and honestly, the nurses were like, what the F? This female dog is crazy. But when I saw a doctor, he took me very, very seriously. It was very nice. He wrote down basically everything I said. I got some x-rays and they asked me questions, you know, the whole spiel. Anyway, the point of this update was to tell you guys that I have a tumor. That's really scary writing out, but I have a tumor in my brain. It hasn't sunken in yet that tomorrow my brain is going to be under the knife. I don't want to share more because I've gotten a lot of messages from people who were like guessing my name and where I'm from. Apparently, I remind people of their friends or crazy exes. I'm scared to miss work, but my boss was more than understanding. He sort of looked at me like I was insane when I asked how long I should be out of work. I don't know. I need to pay rent. We'll figure it out. Thank you all for your love and support. I will update whenever I remember to. I'm scared, but I'm alive. Okay, so there we go. Terrifying stuff. My goodness. However, the beauty of this subreddit, as I said in the introduction, is that there's an update to this one. A conclusive update that comes 10 years later. Just a few days ago at the time of recording, and that is why this story is back on my radar on Reddit, because on April the 18th, 2025, remember the original post here was November 24th, 2015, so almost a decade later, we got this update. Am I allowed to make an update here? I don't use social media much anymore, and Reddit looks completely different than the last time I logged in. My friend sent me this basically immediately after it was posted, asking if it was me. It was so long ago. I kind of cringe seeing how I wrote, but I'll give myself some flack because I was young and going through a terrible time. That boyfriend didn't last long. He bailed when he found out how long my recovery would be and what it entailed. I moved back in with my family, who are all nurses and caregivers, so it was really the smoothest recovery I could have had. I did years of therapy, both physical and mental. I did eventually end up losing my factory job, but that honestly wasn't their fault. Admittedly, I no-showed to work a lot and was sparring for a few years, but I eventually landed on my feet. I found my dream man, lumberjack type, sorry for being a Canadian stereotype, and his mother had gone through almost the same thing I did when she was younger, so we really bonded over that. I won't say I'm having a perfect time. Life is life. I'm child-free, I have a job I tolerate, I have money to spend on my friends and family, and I'm generally very happy. I keep off social media because I already survived the brain tumor. I'm not looking for more. And for Americans who are going to ask, yes, it was free. And there we go. What a whirlwind of a story. Okay, so there we go. That is it for the first story in this episode. And goodness me, that is the beauty of r/best of Redditor updates. Because without this 10-year update, as I said, I'd just be thinking, oh, what's happened to this woman? Like, I need to know. And I know a lot of you, when I read stories from other subreddits, say to me, can you look out for this if there's an update? Keep a tab on this account, etc., etc. I always try to do it. It's very hard because I can't just monitor everyone's account ever. So I only really can see it if it pops up on like my homepage or on the subreddit page. However, this is why this subreddit is great, because we don't need to stay tuned now. Like, we know what's happened. This woman is fine, which is great, but Jesus, terrifying stuff. And I had to read this story because the same thing happened to my aunt. She also had a brain tumor. It was benign, but reading this, I like the effect that can have. She's fine now, by the way, but the effect that can have on your life when you're not sure like what is up with you is mental. I think she got lucky compared to this woman. She didn't have to do like, years and years of physical or mental therapy, but truly terrifying. Can you imagine like thinking that somebody has said something to you and they actually haven't? I don't know if you guys have watched the most recent Black Mirror series, but there's an episode in there which, I mean, obviously it's fiction, but it's a little bit like this and it's pretty scary. But yeah, I don't think the characters cross over from that into reality, thankfully. If you know what I'm talking about, then you know. But wow, what a start to this episode. My husband of 20 years is cheating on me with our son's 18-year-old girlfriend. How about that for a title? I am a 41-year-old stay-at-home mum. My husband, who is 48, who we'll call Paul, works in finance. We've been married for nearly 20 years. We have 2 kids. Eric, our 18-year-old son, currently a senior in high school, and Mary, our 15-year-old daughter. They are both the light of my life. My marriage with my husband has grown somewhat stale over the years for a myriad of reasons, such as his work schedule and how I've aged poorly since we first met. Our son, Eric, has a girlfriend who is also 18, who he's been dating since they were freshmen in high school. We'll call her Amy. Eric absolutely adores Amy. She's his first love, and she's someone I've always considered as family. This makes the whole situation emotionally excruciating for me. Last week, I inadvertently saw my husband's phone screen and I got a glimpse of a text thread between my husband and Amy, just to remind you, our son's girlfriend, and I read what looked like a message of her telling him that she, quote, misses sucking his you-know-what. I froze in place, in complete disbelief. I spent most of the day convincing myself that I must have misread what I saw. However, I didn't misread it, because over the last several days, I discovered a file on his computer filled with tons of BDSM porn. He clearly has an addiction. He also has saved photos of Amy from her Instagram on his computer. Although they weren't inappropriate, she was fully clothed, it was still the proof I needed to confirm that I wasn't going crazy. I also looked at his phone during opportune moments, and I saw more of their interactions. I wish I'd never looked. They were filled with mean, horrible things at my expense, with him constantly comparing me to her. He'd call me fat and old, among other things, with Amy LOLing. I've always had hunches or paranoid feelings that Paul has been cheating on me, but never in a million years could I have fathomed something like this. Last month, I found a thong in our bedroom that I know wasn't mine. I turned a blind eye to it, being naive, acting like it was maybe our daughter's, even though that made zero sense. Not only is he cheating on me, but he's betraying our son. I'm completely devastated. I don't even think words can adequately describe the dread, anger, shock that I feel right now. I'm totally overwhelmed as to how to handle this, because obviously action needs to be taken, but I'm terrified of what kind of psychic blow this will be for my son. I've got no idea how to even broach this completely effed up topic with him. I wouldn't wish this predicament on my worst enemy. I can't even believe I married this scumbag in the first place. And then my mind started to race, realizing that I started noticing specifically unusual behavior from him around the same time that Amy turned 18. Was he waiting for her to turn 18 before pursuing this affair? There's so many layers to all of this, and I'm completely paralyzed with fear and dread about it all. None of it makes any freaking sense. How did this happen? Am I that much of a stupid idiot that I let all of this happen under my watch? Eric adores Amy, and the thought of revealing this sickening truth to him terrifies me. The impact on his young heart and mind could be devastating. My heart aches for Eric and Mary, who are completely innocent bystanders. I've not confronted my husband about this because I'm frankly scared of the domino effect. I don't know who to turn to first about this. I share my story not for sympathy, but in search of understanding and perhaps advice from those who might have had to grapple with deep betrayal. Thank you for listening. Okay, wow, what a first post. Absolutely insane. Let's jump into some comments straight away. Somebody said, if she's freshly 18, isn't this illegal? There's no way they weren't doing anything illegal before she turned into an adult. Also, even if it's not, the age gap is over 3 decades. Your husband is suspect as anything. Police immediately. OP replied, she's been 18 for 5 months now. I haven't been able to gauge when this all started. I'm trying my hardest to figure that out. He deletes his texts every couple of weeks, it seems like, so I've not been able to pinpoint when this started. OP also added this additional info. Thank you everyone for your overwhelming support. I'm sorry if I haven't responded to your private messages. I'll get to them when I can. I'm dealing with a lot right now and taking a lot of steps that need to be taken. I'm trying to be smart and strategic with this truly surreal and terrible situation I'm in. I want to be clear that not telling my son about this was never something I was considering. I didn't mean to make it seem that way. I was just saying that I'm intensely dreading it, but obviously it needs to be addressed. It's one part of the many steps of my overall plan. I'm currently playing dumb, collecting as much evidence as I can so I can be prepared for anything and everything. I'm going to protect myself and I'm going to make sure I don't put myself in any potential harm's way. I'll post a more thorough update soon when I can, but please know you've all touched my heart so much and made me feel less alone. Goodness me, just imagine being OP and being in this situation. Not only is your husband cheating on you, but he's cheating on you with your son's girlfriend, and you're going to have to be the one to tell your son. Oh my goodness, just disgusting. Anyway, 5 days later, we got the first update in this story. Title was, I'm divorcing my husband because he cheated on me with our son's 18-year-old girlfriend. My brother connected me to a very tough, junkyard dog type lawyer. I saved screenshots of all of his conversations with Amy. I was only able to get the last 3 months from iCloud. The conversations were mostly flirty and dirty talk. It was hard to stomach, completely sleazy, and I saw several negative things about me. His call history showed he talks with her for hours, pretty consistently. He uses dating apps. I took screenshots of his profiles and all of the active chats he has with his matches. It's very clear he uses a filter to seek out girls who are 18 to 22 or so. Oh my word. I copied all of his files from the computer. He goes on sex chat rooms and forums and spends a ton of money on OnlyFans. I rummaged through every possible hiding spot I could think of in the house. He had various toys, blindfolds, cuffs, lubricants, etc. He also had different outfits which looked kind of like a girl's Catholic school uniform and a French maid type outfit too. I picked up Eric and Mary from school and we all drove to my brother's. They were able to sense that something was awry when I picked them up. I delicately told them the entire situation and I broke down crying. Mary had the most anger, even more than Eric. I met with Amy's mother and I told her everything. She confiscated Amy's phone and gave me the entire chat log. It only dated back 3 months ago, like on my husband's iCloud, almost as if they both deleted the messages at the same time. She told me that Amy sobbed when confronted. Amy basically told her mother that she will never understand and that she and him are in love. I don't want to get into too many details with what else she was saying, but suffice to say, it's very easy to assume that my husband slowly and methodically became a sage-like figure in her life, making her feel she could rely on him, and he took advantage of the fact that she came from a broken home. Amy is also non-stop insistent that their friendship only became romantic/physical recently, and before that, she said he was more of a friend and mentor. Right, so turns out your husband is pretty weird. He's been grooming an underage kid and has a serious fetish/prawn addiction. Wow. I confronted Paul over Zoom. The look on his face was scary. He became red and looked so sweaty. He had anger and panic in his eyes. His tone of voice was very defensive and frightening. He kept yelling the word context over and over again, and that none of that happened. He was unable to speak without constant stutters and intensity. Nothing really made any sense to me. I refused to tell him where I was, and he said I had no right to take his kids away from him, and then he abruptly left the Zoom. My lawyer is filing for temporary sole custody of Mary and a restraining order. Mary is still the most angry. She's totally furious with her dad and Amy, justifiably so, of course. She's recollecting moments and times that she watched her dad interact with her friends, and she's in knots about it. Eric is very clearly hurting, but he's so strong and very level-headed. He wants to see a therapist. The maturity my kids are showing makes me proud. They don't deserve this at all. We made the authorities aware of everything. I plan on being completely unforgiving and ruthless in this divorce. I'm reflecting on how I've been treated and how it's made me a shell of myself, and how I've had a very negative opinion of myself because of him over the last 20 years. I don't want to let this scumbag get away with it. I want to reinvent myself and move on stronger than ever. Okay, so that is it for the first update. Let's jump into some comments. Somebody said, "How is your son holding up? What's developed between him and Amy?" OP replied, "He's not spoken to Amy yet since finding out the news, and I'm not sure if he ever will again." Somebody else said, "Have you confirmed if the thong you found was Amy's? This situation is effed up." I confirmed that it wasn't my daughter's. She said it wasn't hers, and I know it wasn't mine, so who else's could it be? Wait, are you saying that they effed in the master bedroom? Well, don't cheaters always use their married bed? Yes, I believe he did. OP also added this in the comments. Both me and my son are going to get tested and checked out as well. There's no telling how many different women he's been sleeping around with. As for Amy, her mum has been in contact with me, and Amy has been threatening to run away with him because they are in love. Honestly, I don't know if I should say this, but I actually feel bad for Amy. Like, she's just been groomed. And if Paul is active with lots of other different women, which, let's be honest, he could be, and I mean, he's committing serious offences here by grooming an underage girl and potentially even having, a sexual relationship with her before she turned 18, then, Amy's having to deal with someone like that in her life who has manipulated her into thinking that she loves, not thinking. She does, I'm sure, love him, but yeah, in that manipulative, grooming sort of way. I mean, just disgusting. Okay, now let's get into the second update. This was posted 5 days later. Thank you again for all the love and encouragement. It gives me comfort and means so much to me. I've received many comments and messages accusing me of faking this story, which oddly also provides comfort because all of this feels unreal even to me. It validates my own feelings that there are people out there who can't even fathom this being true. I wish it were fake. I've been focusing on and worrying about how others are feeling over this, somewhat ignoring my own feelings, which I'm trying to change. I range from anger to numbness like a light switch. We're all safe and still at my brother's house. We're very careful and his house is secured. Paul has tried to call my cell phone several times a day. I'm just refusing to interact with him, and I will have my lawyer handle all correspondence. He scares me, frankly. My brother has a very secure house with an alarm system and deadbolt locks. We feel safe with him. Both my son and I got checked out and tested. It appears so far we're both clean based on the immediate rapid tests, but in the coming days we'll know for certain when the lab results come in. I'm not overly concerned. Eric is scheduled to see a therapist early next week, which is very good and needed. He's not himself right now. He seems a bit shell-shocked, and I'm concerned. He internalizes a lot, and it's hard to get a read on what's going on in his head. That being said, he's thoughtful and has been talking with me, asking me how I'm doing and everything. He's not interested in corresponding with his dad at all. He calls only my cell phone, and he hasn't tried to reach out to either Eric or Mary. That in and of itself is a little bit weird, not even trying to reach out to your kids. Strange man, but I think we already knew that. I get the sense that Paul is extremely nervous. He's scared, and I think deep down knows that if investigated thoroughly, he'd be in big trouble. That's what my gut is telling me. I still think about the Zoom call with him, and the more I think about it, the more it looked like he was a man whose entire world was crashing down on him. The panic in his face was very apparent. I offered Mary for me to make an appointment with a therapist as well, but she doesn't want to see one yet. She said she's open to it eventually, but wants time to herself. She's been asking her friends about her dad and if they experienced any creepiness from him. Her friends were open and honest with her, and apparently they felt like he stared a lot and sensed his hovering presence whenever they were over. One of Mary's friends went so far as to say that she felt like he was checking her out a lot, like looking at her rear and complimenting the colour of her yoga pants. At the time, no issue was brought up about it, but in light of everything that's been happening, it seems strange now. He would sit himself in different areas or vantage points to get a good view of her, she claimed. He also asked questions about what kind of friend group or which clique they were in at school. He kept asking about if they were popular girls. I'm completely embarrassed that they had this experience at our house. As for updates on Amy, which is the main reason I wanted to write this update, I completely agree that she is also a victim, as I said. A lot of people have been emphasizing that, and I agree. I've done everything I could in my own power to indirectly get her opportunities to get help. Like I said, I told her mother, and she's been updating me on everything. Amy, though, unfortunately, is still living in her deluded reality, and I can only pray that she'll eventually come to her senses. She doesn't want to see any doctors or therapists at all, and has been constantly trying to reach Paul because, again, she believes they're in love. From what I've been told, she hasn't been able to get a hold of him, and he's been avoiding communication with her completely. Amy blames me for that and believes that I took away his devices and that I'm very controlling. Any truth that her mother tries to convey to her is met with conspiracy theories and hostility. Amy looks at me as a villain and still sees Paul through rose-coloured glasses. Her mother showed her screenshots of his dating app profiles and matches, but she refuses to believe it, saying that I photoshopped it. According to her mum, Amy keeps saying things like everyone is just mad because she found herself a real man, and that I'm jealous because she, quote, takes better care of him than I do. That's in line with some of the conversations I screenshotted, where a lot of what Paul says is him complaining about things that I don't do for him sexually. Right now, she's insistent that she and Paul will be together in the long run. Ugh, he's honestly a slimeball. I can only hope that Amy comes to her senses, but me directly intervening doesn't feel like it would be productive at the moment. Maybe eventually though. Okay, now let's get into the third update 11 days later. So, the divorce. It's very much underway. I'm not going to get into the specifics of it all because it's ongoing, and I want to make sure that everything is going to go smoothly. I got temporary custody of Mary. Paul also has to pay temporary child support. There's a protective order. Paul can't contact us or come near us. Right now, we're just focusing on getting through this legal mess. Again, I'm not going to get into specifics because I don't want to mess anything up, but what I'll say is I'm very confident, divorce aside, that there's overwhelming evidence against Paul that will get him in serious trouble and will impact him for the rest of his life. I'm sure eventually I can share more about that, and don't worry guys, there's a very recent update, as I mentioned, that I'm presuming will go into detail about that. I know a lot of people are concerned about his predatory ways, and I just wanted to convey this, even though I have to be vague right now. Justice will come. All of your concern about how my kids are doing psychologically means a lot to me. Eric has been to therapy twice over the last 2 weeks. I know some people thought I was dismissive of him and acting like he's doing okay. I very much know that he's hurting internally, and we're doing everything we can to make sure he knows he's supported and loved. My brother has been amazing in spending time with Eric and Mary, and both of them have confided in him about a lot. My brother has a very healthy marriage, and both he and his wife have really stepped up to the plate for all of us. Mary hasn't seen a therapist yet, but she promises that she will be open to seeing one soon. Her anger has mostly turned into sadness, I noticed, and I hope that I can get her to see a therapist soon. Her friends have played a key role in this whole thing, and that is something that Mary has been grappling with as well. I know a lot of people are invested in the well-being of Amy too. There were a lot of questions about whether Eric and Amy would still see each other at school. It sounded like they go to the same school, but they actually don't. Eric and Amy went to the same junior high school and knew each other even then, but Amy ended up going to an all-girls Catholic high school, while Eric and Mary too stayed in the public system. We all lived in the same town, and over the summer, heading into freshman year is when they were getting to know each other and when they started dating. Now, I wish I had a better Amy update, but it's actually gotten a lot worse since the last update. Paul has actually been seeing Amy despite her mother trying to force her not to see him. She tells me that Amy says she's 18 and an adult and she can do what she wants. Her mum's in a precarious spot because if she kicks Amy out of the house for defying her, something that she's threatened to do, which I think is a mistake, she would obviously just run to Paul permanently. The time she spends with Paul has actually increased over the last week, despite the fact that Paul initially ghosted her when all of this first hit the fan. There were some days Amy would just be gone for hours on end. Look, there's only so much I can do with the Amy situation, but again, I do believe things will turn around soon, given what I know about Paul and what's to come. I can only pray that Amy can get help and guidance when more poop hits the fan. I'm doing everything I can with my own kids and my own mental health, and Amy's mum knows she has my support, and that's all I could really provide. Okay, so that is it for the third update. The fourth and final update is coming, and that was posted just a couple of weeks ago at the time of recording, obviously in 2025. So over a year since this all started. But first of all, let's have a look at some people's comments. Someone said, the only way, to be honest, that Amy will see how messed up Paul is when he eventually sleeps with someone else, or he accuses her of seducing him. Even if he ends up as a sex offender, I don't know if that's enough to convince her that he's a creep and dangerous. Now, I'm curious as to what Paul's intentions are. He ghosted her, and now all of a sudden they're meeting up again? Worst case scenario, he's going to have her falsely testify, which I don't think will take much convincing. Honestly, you and Amy's mum have done what you could. The best thing Amy's mum could do is sit and wait, but don't kick her out. Let her know she'll be there for Amy, and she'll still have a roof over her head. And pray that she snaps out of it soon, instead of years later when she's burned bridges and wasted her life on a man who took advantage and ruined everyone else's lives. Yeah, interesting point about Paul. I'm not entirely sure. There are many ways that you could think about this. It's obvious why he ghosted her in the first place, because he's been caught, and whether or not he knows or knew he was going to be in any legal, danger or whatever, doesn't really change the fact that it's pretty obvious that you'd stop seeing that person immediately. Now, as to why he would now see her again, well, either you could argue he may think that he's fine legally, and if he's fine, then why can't he keep seeing this girl? Or what I think is most likely is that he doesn't have the self-control to not see her. And it's actually like, oh, you know what, I'm just going to keep seeing her. I'm addicted, so I don't care anymore. I think that's probably what's going on. And he's probably not able to stop himself because Amy's like, I want to see you, obviously. And he held out for a while, but then actually he's like, no, I want to get back with this 18-year-old who I groomed. Pretty disgusting man, but yeah, we already knew that. Okay then, now let's get into the new update. As I said, this was posted April 14th, 2025. Titled, My predatory ex-husband fled to Cambodia. My kids and I are still here and going to therapy. Okay, OP starts by giving a quick recap that we obviously don't need to go into, but she does say this at the end. Mary and Eric were both traumatized and they are still in therapy a year later about it. Overall, the amount of scorched earth that Paul caused is mind-boggling to me. I am still rattled by it, and I don't think I will ever recover, to be honest. Yeah, I'm not surprised. Anyway, let's get into some new info. Paul and Amy dated, in quotation marks, for several months after we started the divorce proceedings. I tried my hardest to keep in touch with Amy's mum to see if there was anything we could do for her to realise Paul's predatory behaviour and maybe speak out against him to see if he slept with her or did anything to her when she was younger, but she refused to talk about anything. She was in love still. Just a few weeks before the divorce was supposed to finalise, Paul disappeared. He drained what was left of our shared accounts, what I hadn't already locked down, and left. We found out later that he bought a one-way ticket to Phnom Penh, Cambodia. I had no idea. I got a notification from the financial tracking alert that my lawyer set up. That was it. We were close to finalising everything. I had full custody of Mary. He wasn't contesting anything. Then he stopped replying. Didn't show up to court, never filed anything, nothing. It was just like he dissolved. Amy, according to her mother, was devastated and she's completely gone mentally right now. She's basically nomadic, sleeping at friends' homes around the area, refusing to come home. My lawyer pushed for a default judgment and the court granted it. The divorce is technically finalised now. I have custody. He's in violation of the support order, but none of it matters. He's gone. Cambodia has no extradition treaty, no child support enforcement, nothing. There's no way to make him come back, no way to make him pay anything. We've got no actual clue where he is in Cambodia. One thing that chills me to my core is how notorious Cambodia is when it comes to trafficking minors. Oh my goodness, that didn't even cross my mind. That might be a bit of a step, but I don't know. This guy is clearly like, he just is a nonce. Anyway, Eric's in college. He keeps his distance from everything to do with Paul. He doesn't say much, but he's steady. I know it still hurts, he just doesn't show it. Mary's quiet about it too. She still brings up little things sometimes, things she remembers now in a different light. She asked me the other night if I thought Paul would come back. I didn't answer. I don't think she really wanted me to. Like, the effect this has had on these two kids, obviously you as well, OP, but on your kids, like for you to find out that your dad's been doing this. I also don't really think it matters necessarily if you're Eric or Mary. I know it was Eric's girlfriend, but like from Mary's perspective, like my dad has been having an affair with my brother's girlfriend, and he's been my dad obviously my entire life, and I've trusted him with my life. Like, how do you ever recover from that? Anyway, let's continue. I don't know what Paul's doing in Cambodia. I don't know who he's talking to or what his life looks like now. I've had a few people tell me to report him to the FBI or try to push for an international investigation. I've made the calls. I've filed what I could, but there's only so much they can do when someone hasn't technically committed a crime that's provable in the US. I don't believe he left the country just to avoid alimony. I think he's a predator, and I think he's a criminal. Yes, I agree with that. That's all for now. I don't have much else to give. I'm still here, my kids are still here, and we're trying. Thank you to everyone for their concern and care. It really warms me. It means so much to me. Well, there we go. That is the end of that story. An absolute crazy one, and I'm not quite sure what I can possibly add as any further context other than what I've said throughout the story. And yeah, I think the story sort of speaks for itself. Terrible situation. I hope everyone involved, well, obviously apart from Paul, can move on with their lives as well as possible. But as I just said then, like, I just don't understand how you can ever get over something like this happening. I think this is worse than like Paul just dying and your dad being dead. Assume you didn't know about this stuff. Like, for example, let me give some context there. If when I was 18, this happened to me, I would rather my dad just died and how I was dealing with the grief of that rather than this. Like, I think this, what I'm trying to say, I've obviously word this awfully. I think this emotional trauma is going to have more of an effect on the kids than a death, like the death of your parent. I think it's much worse than that psychologically. So I don't know how you're going to recover from that. I don't know. I think just the answer has to be therapy and time. But what I will say is, OP, you've done everything you can. I mean, you've acted unbelievably throughout all of this, not just with your own kids, but with Amy as well and her mum. So fair play to you. And yeah, I hope you continue to, look, you're going to look after your kids, obviously, but don't forget about yourself throughout all of this. You've also been through like this crazy story. Am I the jerk for laughing at my stepson and ruining his wedding? This was originally posted on April the 18th, 2025. For context, I've been married to my husband for just over 20 years. We started dating when my stepkids were 5 and 3. Our kids are Adam, he's 28, stepkid 1. Ben, he's 26, stepkid 2. Charles, who's 20, David, who's 17, and Ellie, who is 13. Adam is getting married at the end of summer to his fiancée Alice, who's 27. We've all been very excited for them. All of the kids have roles for the wedding. Charles is the best man, the other 2 boys are groomsmen, and Ellie is a junior bridesmaid. Last weekend, we had a dinner for my husband's birthday. All of the kids attended along with Alice. The topic of the wedding came up, and this is where it started to go downhill. Ellie brought up that she was so excited to go dress shopping and that we plan to go to a bigger city in a few weeks to get her a dress, and me a stepmom of the groom dress. At that, Alice looked at Adam sideways and responded that we only needed to worry about one dress, Ellie's. Ellie kind of laughed and said, "What are you expecting mum to wear then? A suit?" Alice responded with, "Well, she's not going. You know, we're keeping our guest list very limited to only family and a few close friends." What? Adam and Alice have been to our house numerous times for holidays, dinners, just to say hi since they've been engaged. This has never been brought up. Pretty quickly, things escalated. The Cliff Notes version is that Charles asked them to clarify if they were choosing to uninvite me now or if I was never invited. Alice confirmed the latter. Why? Well, Adam said it's because I'm not his mum. Charles, David and Ellie argued with Adam and Alice that none of them were going to go if I wasn't invited, that it was cruel to leave me out given I've been his parent for a majority of his life and loved him like my own. My husband and I admittedly sat there for a minute, just freaking shocked. Adam finally turned to my husband and said, "Well?" My husband told him he wouldn't be going either. Adam then turned to me and asked if I was really going to let everyone ruin his wedding on my behalf. Here's where I might be the jerk. I just laughed. I don't know what came over me, but the entire thing was just so ridiculous that laughing was the only thing I could get out. I told my husband I'd be waiting in the car, and I left. And then I promptly bawled my eyes out. Oh man. Anyways, Charles, David and Ellie are not talking to Adam. Adam called my husband yesterday to try and smooth things over. He was still adamant that I'm not invited and it's their wedding though. He also requested that I apologise for laughing at him. My husband told him, "Tough trash. It's their wedding and they can invite whoever they want, but they can't control who will actually go." He said they owe me an apology and that Adam should be ashamed of himself. I'm getting texts now asking what the F I did and why I'm being a step monster and ruining the wedding. So am I the jerk? Wow. Obviously not, but goodness me. What a start to this story. Now, I want to immediately get into the comments here because this comment I think is very, very apt. Somebody said, "I feel like there's actually a lot missing here. You've been married to his dad since he was 8. That was years of elementary, middle, high school, college, 20 years. Is his mother still alive? Did his fiancé influence him? Just seems odd to not invite his dad's wife of 20 years and then call her not family. I don't think you're the jerk, but I just want to know more about the past 20 years. And I think that's very important because without that context, looking at this, you just be like, okay, what is going on? Adam and Alice are ridiculous here. Or Alice has such a hold over Adam or whatever. But, you know, we don't know for sure what OP's role has been in Adam's life. We just know she's been around for a long time, but we don't actually know what their relationship is. So I'm happy that somebody asked this in the comments down below. And OP replied saying, "I'm sorry, I had to cut out a lot for the character count to post. On r/AmITheJerk, there is quite a limited character count." Anyway, when Adam called, my husband did ask him if I'd done anything. If it was related to his bio mum, she's never gotten along with us. If I'd overstepped in any way. Adam says, no, it's just they want family only. Adam's stepdad is invited as far as we know. I was a stay-at-home mum for most of my stepkids' childhood and we had 50-50. My husband has always worked a lot but has been as involved as possible. The house and child rearing mostly fell to me though. I love our kids to pieces. I thought we'd made it clear from the beginning that I am/was another parent that loves them, not a replacement mum. We've never had any issues, and I thought up until now that we were particularly close. Our communication has slowed since he met Alice, but he was calling me about once or twice a week prior to this. Alice and I have gone shopping on occasion, got on lunch. I even went with her to the florist for the wedding because her mum wasn't available and Adam got called into work. There has to be something or someone causing an issue, and my husband and I are baffled. Somebody else asked, is his mum invited? OP said, yeah, as far as we've heard, the stepdad is also invited. We, my husband and I, have never gotten along with the mum, but we still play nice, as we still have 50-50 of my younger stepson, Ben. Adam and his mum had a falling out a few years ago, as she was starting to treat him the way she's always treated my husband and I. That is, poorly. I don't really know how to nicely explain other than she's a narcissist. Adam hasn't wanted to talk about it much, and we won't push it. I know they talk and visit, but how close they are, I've got no idea. Somebody asked about, custody of Ben at 26? Yeah, he's disabled. He can choose where he's staying as he likes, but he mostly sticks to a 50-50 schedule, unless there is a family event or vacation. He's pretty independent, but he's not able to live on his own. Guardianship is probably a better word for what we have now instead of custody. So, with all that context, somebody then said, well, you're absolutely not the jerk then. Assuming that you and Adam have gotten along fine until now, it's absolutely wild that they wouldn't invite you. Only family and a few close friends. A step-parent literally counts as family. And the nerve to accuse you of ruining his wedding, I don't blame you for laughing. Yeah, I agree with that. It's just so shocking that you either laugh or cry. And OP did one and then the next. It makes sense to me. I mean, that's a genuinely very reasonable reaction to something that is as outright hilarious, really, as that. OP then said, it's probably also relevant, but my husband's parents are long since deceased. My parents, dad, stepmom and mum, have been very involved with all of the kids since they were little. They're also not going, since if I'm not family, they're not either. My brother and sister-in-law, their daughter, my cousin, they call him uncle, and several of my other family members that have been around since my stepkids were little have also dropped. They're up to about 20 people who have rescinded their yes RSVP for a wedding of maybe 60. Now, thankfully, another commenter picked up on something that I just realized. Wait, hold up. So your family was invited, but not you? Then what the heck did Adam expect when it came out that you're not invited? Well, that's my family's take. Why are they invited, but I'm not? They aren't related to my stepkids by blood either, but they're apparently family? To be fair, my family is larger than my husband's and my stepkids, stepdads and biomums. My stepkids were the first grandkids on my side. They were not with biomum and dad's families, and were absolutely spoiled rotten growing up. Charles is now supposed to meet Adam for a coffee over the weekend. I've warned him that truly I don't think it's coming from Adam and to try to be calm about it. Somebody else asked for some info. What is the nature of your relationship with Adam? Is his mother in the picture? And importantly, could his fiancée Alice be in his ear? I thought we were particularly close. Besides the normal teenager, I don't have to listen to you BS phase, we've never fought. We've always had him and Ben 50-50. As a teen and on, he's butted heads with his mum. There have been times over the years where Adam had come to my husband and I and asked questions from things his mum had said, but we've always been forthcoming with info. Example of that is that his mum called me a homewrecker. This upset Adam. Adam came annoyed at us, explained that no, bio mum and dad were long since broken up, and mum even had a fiancé who was not current stepdad when I met dad. Pulled receipts. Then Adam got upset with his mum. Blew over and on to the next thing. We still deal with bio mum though, and do have a hard time believing she'd pull something at this point. Alice and I aren't super close, but I thought we had a good relationship. I've always tried to include her. Sometimes she takes up my offer, sometimes she doesn't. I know she sees bio mum quite a bit, and that side of Adam's family too. She was raised by her grandparents, and she doesn't talk about her bio parents often. Somebody else asked, how did Ben react to this? At this point, I probably wouldn't go to the wedding, and I'd block him and his future wife. They would have to grovel in order for me to go. They made it clear they don't see you as family, so you don't need to do anything for them going forward. OP said that Ben was very upset and confused. He is autistic, so what exactly the argument is about doesn't quite click, but he's mostly upset that Adam says I'm not their parent and his siblings are all fighting. We've sat him down since and explained that I love him dearly and I'll never go anywhere. All of us love Adam, we're just hurt. He himself can choose to go to the wedding or not. He doesn't have to choose sides, we'll still love him if he goes. Honestly, he probably will. He loves cake and dancing. He seems to be doing just fine since. He's not asked about Adam, but we'll go to his mum's tomorrow and probably see him there. OP added a little bit more context down below as well, just info on everyone's relationships, saying, it was hard to include every bit of context in the post because of that character limit, but I quit my job when Charles was 6 months old. Adam would have been 8, almost 9. No affair. I met my husband when he'd been divorced for over a year. Bio mum was engaged to somebody else. If you ask their bio mum, she'll say I've always overstepped. If you ask her how, she'll give examples like I went to school events. Well, so did stepdad. I helped with homework. I spent too much time with them. She would thank me for loving her kids so much and then turn around and berate my husband for me loving kids that aren't hers too much. Another example is that in the beginning, she wanted to communicate with me directly more. Said she loved the communication and that I was easier to deal with than my husband. Next argument with my husband, she brought up that I was weird and too involved and she shouldn't have to talk to me whatsoever. I've not talked to her since. Periodically, she's brought up that I was easier to talk to and she doesn't understand why communication just has to go through my husband. Well, after several years of trying to appease her, we quit to just focus on keeping our family happy and supported. It's been 23 years now of dealing with her. I've been to therapy multiple times to resolve whatever issues she says I have. It did actually help with strategies to deal with her. Truly, it's just that she has mental issues. Their dad did work a lot. He's always been on nights. It's changed slightly over the years, but we had stepkids Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and every other Monday. His days off have always fell over those days, so he can spend the maximum amount of time with them. But usually he worked 1 to 2 of those nights. Very rarely would he work overtime on days we had my stepkids. Usually he would though on days we didn't. We still currently try to do dates on days when Ben is not with us. I hope that makes sense and clears up some questions. Now somebody asked for a little bit more detail on Alice, and I feel like when we get into the update of this story, and I'm just guessing here because I haven't read any further, but I think Alice is going to be an integral part. Surely it's come from her. Right now, I just cannot see how this is coming from Adam. But anyway, somebody asked, are Alice's parents still together? Has she assumed you're some kind of evil stepmother? Does she have a bad relationship with her stepmom and doesn't want to invite her? OP said, her, quotes, mum and dad are actually her grandparents. She's not talked about it much with me specifically, but her bio mum is deceased, drugs, and her bio father is in prison. She's talked about it some with my husband, who was adopted by his aunt and uncle, father not in the picture, and mother died from cancer when he was 4. My stepmom has also talked with her at one point because she too was adopted by her grandparents for similar reasons. It just adds to our confusion. We've got such a mix of types of family, regardless of blood. My mum has been laying it on thick that I need to smooth things over because family is family, and I'm the parent, so it's my responsibility to fix it. But frick, I'm not ready to talk to Adam. Now, to briefly summarize this comment, they pretty much say that they think there is a bad actor here, but they do not think it's OP. From everything they've seen of OP's writing and how she acts in the comments and what she says about her relationship with Adam, with Ben, etc., she's a good mum. And I agree with that. I think it's pretty clear, right? You can tell by someone's writing and stuff that, you know, they are not the issue in this story. I think we can all agree on that. Anyway, OP says, thank you for your thoughtful comment. Adam will always be my first son, whether he thinks of me as his mum or not. I thought we've been pretty clear throughout the years that I love him, regardless of what he thinks of me, and that my involvement extends to whatever he wants of me, and some fair non-negotiables. Mostly safety things, chores his dad agreed on when I asked, that kind of thing. I couldn't get in with my therapist this week, but I do have an appointment next week, and we will try to formulate a well thought out response back. I'm certainly not a perfect person or parent, but I won't intentionally sabotage him further. I do love a good revenge story, as do I, but that's not it when it comes to my kids. I've talked to the youngest 3 and they've reassured me that it's their choice whether or not they go, and I won't push them on it. I've been reminding them that he is still their brother and it doesn't sound like him. Mostly for Charles, he's very outspoken and protective. Charles is supposed to meet with him this weekend and I'm hoping we'll get some clearer answers from that. And then, 5 days later, April the 23rd, we got this update. Thank you to everyone who responded to my post. Most of you were kind and offer good advice. I appreciate it. Before I give an update, I just want to answer a few frequently asked questions. 1, I am not an affair partner. My husband didn't cheat on his ex-wife with me. We met about a year after they divorced. She was already engaged, not to current stepdad. Not that that really matters. And 2, Ben was at the dinner. He's autistic. I went into it some more in the comments, but he was very upset. He doesn't understand the argument. He was mostly upset at Adam for saying I'm not their parent, and then at all the siblings for fighting with each other, as we heard before. Anyways, the update. The short is, if you guessed it was related to biomum, you were correct. I didn't want this to be the case. Oh, interesting. That is really interesting. Throughout all of this, I sort of thought it would be Alice, but the fact his bio mum is super interesting. Okay, and by the way, I'm sure a lot of you in the comments got that before me, a lot of you listening right now, but I wasn't sure. Adam rescheduled with Charles for Monday, citing Easter weekend. Fair enough. He also texted my husband to let him know that him and Alice would be doing Easter with her parents. We expected that. At some point on Sunday, Ellie texted Alice. Just a reminder, Ellie is OP's youngest child, just 13 years old. I'm not sure what exactly was said, but it prompted Alice to spill everything that was going on with her parents. I've met them a few times, but they live a few hours away. They encouraged her and Adam to reach out to us to clear everything up. Monday, we dropped Ben off to Bio Mum's. He stayed an extra night for Easter fun. A few hours later, she began to blow up my husband's phone as Ben mentioned the fight. My husband answered one call in which she was screaming and promptly hung up. He texted her that the siblings argued, everything's fine, and that if Ben has any further questions, we will talk about it when he's back with us. From some of the things she texted, we knew she was the root of all of this. Monday, Adam also met up with Charles, and he did come clean. Charles texted us to see if it was okay if they come over after, and we said yes. I'm not going to lie, Adam looked a mess. He immediately began crying and apologizing. The short and sweet is that he's been trying to mend bridges with his bio mum. Their wedding isn't 60 people, it's blown up to about double that, and they've been struggling to figure out how to pay for it. At one of their visits, Alice let it slip, and Adam's bio mum jumped to help pay for things. It slowly snowballed from there, from small requests to big requests. I'm not sure what the final nail in the coffin was, but it ended with bio mum requesting I not be there. Adam said it was easier to hurt me than risk World War III with his bio mum. Alice's parents were less than pleased to find out how they've been with the wedding and budget, and even less so at Adam's bio mum's antics. They're trying to figure out how to start covering the payments that bio mum has made. We've decided to help some with this. Adam also asked if we could meet again in a few days with Alice, and we've said yes. There's still a lot of ground to cover for this to be close to mended. I'm still hurt, but mostly I'm angry on behalf of my oldest son. Okay, there we go. Very interesting final line, I've got to say, and very interesting story on the whole. But the first thing that comes to my mind is, why are you feeling sorry or angry on behalf of Adam? I don't understand that. You should be feeling angry because of Adam, not for him. Like, he is the one throughout all of this that has shown no backbone at all, has never stood up for you, and has chosen money over his stepmom, who's been in his life for how many years? Like over 20. That's crazy. Like, I get it. You love him, but you've got to open your eyes and see that he is the reason why this has happened. He doesn't need the money. Like, he's been dumb enough to be like, oh, the wedding's got too big. Close it down then. Make it smaller. It's not that hard. Like, if you're choosing money from someone that, you know, you don't really like that much, or I suppose, look, it's his bio mum, yeah, but there's been a lot of issues, it seems like, throughout their lives together. And then you're then just neglecting someone who's been amazing in your life because of a little bit of cash for a wedding, then you are a disgrace. I'm sorry, you just are. I mean, someone has said in the comments down below, which made me laugh, is it even legal for Alice to get married to an invertebrate? Citing the lack of spine that Adam is showing here. And I don't know the rules. I've never tried. I'm not like attracted to ants. But yeah, can you marry an ant? Let me know in the comments down below. I mean, it's just crazy, like the lack of loyalty. This woman has raised you since you were 5. And you've chosen a little bit of cash because you accidentally invited too many people to your wedding. You are a genuine disgrace, Adam. I'm sorry. Like, I can have a go at Alice here, but I wrongly thought it was her fault. Maybe she's like, okay, we need to have a bigger wedding. We need more people. Let's get the money from your bio mum, which is, again, bad, but we don't know that for sure. She is also to blame, of course. Bio mum is clearly just a weird person, but I'm sorry. I've got to look at Adam and no further, because he could have stopped it and said, no, I'm choosing love over money, but he didn't. And ultimately, that all comes down to him. My boyfriend keeps letting his friend come on our dates. Okay, how we got into this predicament in the first place is that my boyfriend just really likes his friend, Liam. He's like a brother to him. He saved his life once, etc. But he's on all our dates. I even brought one of my single dates on a date so we could double, and Liam and her don't date, so that failed. I've honestly asked my boyfriend, why is Liam on our dates? And he says that Liam is lonely, has nobody else, and he has no siblings or girlfriend. But then my boyfriend kind of guilts me because, and I know this sounds awful, Liam is the frickin' package for guilt. His mum died when he was young, then his dad and him don't talk anymore, so Liam just doesn't have anyone else to talk to. I honestly think my boyfriend is guilt-tripping me, and I don't think I can do this relationship anymore. If nothing changes, I'm leaving. This has gone on for 3 months. Like, sure, I feel bad for Liam, but I don't really know him, and it's not my problem. It's also not just dates, but movie nights, he's here. Going to the mall, he's there. Where is he not? Also, I know this sounds made up, I still can't believe it, but it is very much real, and I basically just need validation that it's okay to break up with my boyfriend over this. Okay, somebody commented, before ending it, and you are fully validated on doing this, by the way, based on your post, have you put your foot down? Why don't you plan dates and tell him his friend is not invited, period? OP replied saying, I have, but as I said in the post, he always guilt trips me into letting him come. Saying this out loud, it kind of just made me realize he's manipulative. Somebody else said, it's okay to break up. You didn't sign up to be the third wheel in your own relationship. He can spend as much time with Liam as he wants as a single dude. OP left a little edit as well at the bottom of this saying, I called my soon-to-be ex-boyfriend to meet up and I'm gonna break up with him. I'm gonna tell him the exact reason, honestly. I swear, if Liam is there though, I'm not considering the possibility of not breaking up with him. It's not even just because of Liam, it's that he manipulates me into letting Liam come. I mean, yeah, from my perspective here, given that you have put your foot down and maybe you've done as much as you can here to say, listen, I'm going to break up with you unless you stop bringing Liam to our dates. There's ample time, by the way, in the week to see Liam not with me and not on our dates. Then I'm going to have to break up with you. But if you haven't given him that chance yet, then I would do that first. But it sounds like you have. Anyway, on the same day, we got the following update. I broke up with my ex. I'm going to call him Xavier. I went to where we agreed to meet up, and guess who he brought with him? Oh, you guessed it, Liam. I was very annoyed at this point. I told him I wanted to speak with him privately, and he brings frickin' Liam. It's very uncomfortable to break up with someone in front of their best friend, but I was too annoyed. I told him, I said I wanted to speak privately. He said, say it in front of Liam. Eventually, I just got annoyed and say, well, that's it. I don't want Liam always here in our private life, on dates, everywhere. He basically said, remember what I told you about Liam's circumstance? Blah, blah, blah. I said something like, I'm sorry, but I don't give an F about what Liam's going through right now. This is about me breaking up with you. Meanwhile, Liam is just standing there, looking confused. I'll get back to this later. So we basically get into a fight in this park, and it gets to the point where I tell him that he manipulates me into not kicking Liam out of our dates, and about everything he told me Liam went through, like a brother to Xavier, saving his life, dead mum, dad absent, no siblings, friends, or girlfriend. And then Xavier looks like he got caught or something, and Liam gets angry, saying what did you tell her? This is all really funny and really awful at the same time, because it turns out that none of what Xavier told me was true. Liam has a fiancé, has a real brother and sister, and his mum isn't dead. So anyway, I definitely broke up with Xavier. 40 minutes later, Liam DMs me, basically saying that Xavier told Liam that I wasn't comfortable being alone with Xavier, and that he thought I wanted him to be on the dates. Sir, what? He said the reason why he agreed is because his fiancée is living in Europe to finish up her study abroad program, and he had nothing better to do. So Xavier's just a flat out liar. I'm glad I broke up with him, mad I got lied to, but oh well. This was honestly not a turn of events I was expecting, and I've got to get it out somewhere. Okay, wow. Interesting start to this episode, and what an interesting story. The only thing that I can think is going on here is that maybe Xavier, by the way, I have no idea how to pronounce that name. I think it's Xavier, isn't it? Was doing this in a sneaky way to actually go on dates with Liam without Liam, knowing that he was on a date with Xavier. Maybe he wanted to go on dates with you as well, but I'm not actually sure he did. Maybe this was just a a sort of way for him to go on dates with Liam, but why would you be there? You don't need to be there. I guess he said that he didn't feel comfortable with you, but then surely from Liam's perspective, he's like, why are you seeing somebody you don't feel comfortable with? Like, let me say this. Liam is not off the hook here. I still think he's been very weird in this story. Like, if my mate was like, oh mate, can you just keep coming to all my dates with my girlfriend? I'd be like, no, you weirdo. That would be the weirdest thing ever. So, what? I wouldn't say, oh yeah, I'm bored, I'll come on all your dates. Liam's really weird, actually, now that I think about it. Xavier is obviously the weirdest guy in all of this. And you made the right decision by breaking up with the pair of them, it seems like. What a strange story. I mean, just looking through the comments, somebody's comment, which is one of the top comments here with over 5,000 upvotes, is just, what the fuck? Okay, what a strange post to start today's proceedings. Now let's get into our second. Am I the jerk for not letting my co-worker stay at my place, even though I have the space? So, I, a 23-year-old woman, live alone in a small 2-bedroom house. One room is mine, the other is basically my everything room. It's my office, my closet, storage. Sometimes I just lay on the floor in there and stare at the ceiling when life sucks. It is not a guest room. I've lived with horrible roommates before, so I worked really hard to be able to afford my own place. And I love having my space. It's literally my safe little bubble. Anyways, one of my co-workers, who was 25, got into a huge fight with her roommates and they kicked her out. She was venting at work and I felt bad and was like, that sucks, oh my god. And I even sent her a few places to look at. I was trying to be helpful without inviting chaos into my life, you know? Well, later that night she texted me saying, hey, I was thinking maybe I could just crash with you for a few weeks since you live alone and have the space. I literally got that sinking feeling in my chest. No. I'm not even close to her. Yeah, we're cool at work, but we've never even hung out outside of lunch breaks and complaining about our boss. She doesn't know anything about me, and I don't know her like that. Why would she live in my house? So I replied super politely like, I totally get that you're going through it, but I really value my space, and I'm just not in a place where I can have someone stay with me. Like, I was nice. I didn't ghost her. I didn't ignore her. I just said no. Next day, she's acting really weird. Then another co-worker tells me she said I let her be homeless when I have an entire room to myself. Like, girl. First of all, she's staying at her boyfriend's place. Secondly, I pay to live alone. That's the whole point. I don't want to feel tense or uncomfortable in my own space. I don't want to tiptoe around a person I barely know. And I definitely don't want to deal with just a few weeks turning into, I'm looking but nothing's coming through yet for 2 months. Now people at work are acting like I'm the bad guy. I'm sorry for not letting a co-worker move into my apartment because she had a bad fight. I don't know. I feel bad, but like, also, no. So, am I the jerk? Now, someone in the comments said, you're obviously not the jerk here. I don't understand why a co-worker would feel entitled to your home. That's truly bizarre. Her life is not your responsibility. I mean, I could maybe get it if you were super close and good long-term friends with a deep connection, but a casual co-worker? OP replied, yeah, literally just a casual co-worker. I don't get it. Somebody else said, anyone makes that comment against you, OP, you say, I'll let my co-worker know that you're volunteering your space to them. That's so kind of you. Aye, Captain, OP said. Someone else said, you're not the jerk. You don't need to find out firsthand why her roommates and boyfriend don't want to live with her either. That's a very good point. I mean, that is the main thing here. Like, if her own boyfriend isn't taking her in when she's in trouble, then obviously there's something wrong there. OP said, I'm definitely understanding it now, seeing the reaction after saying no. I'm a homebody and I really enjoy my personal space, given the fact I work 2 jobs and my home is my only carefree space. And ultimately, you were really nice about it. You didn't have to be as nice as that. You could have just said, no, sorry, I love living alone and, I've paid a lot of money to have a spare room for myself and I don't want to give it to anyone else. Simple as that. Somebody else said similar, like for the co-workers saying you're letting the girl be homeless, etc. Do you see them offering a place for her to crash? Exactly. OP said, it's only because I work my tail off with 2 jobs to have the extra space. It would feel pointless if I just handed that free space away. Somebody else said, this person isn't a friend or family. Why doesn't she just get an Airbnb or motel? That's what I was thinking, OP replied. If she's in such a horrible spot, I'd even help her pay for a night or 2. If it was family or my best friend, it would be a different story. But for added context, I've only been working at this job for 6 months. Also, it's worth mentioning, I think you made a great point here, that it's actually very likely that a couple of weeks would then turn into a couple of months. That sort of situation, as soon as somebody actually has a place, they're going to be less incentivized, especially looking at this person and seeing how she is, to get another place and move out and pay for somewhere else, to be honest. So I just would never do this. Finally, before we get into the update here, somebody said, you said people at work are acting like you're the bad guy. Has anyone said anything to you about the situation? OP said, it's always something like, well, I would if I lived by myself. I would if I had the space. I've had a similar situation happen to me and it sucks really bad, which is why I sent her listings. Not sure how that equated to let me live with you, but it does seem like my reasonings of wanting to be alone are somehow invalidated. It's like they think my free room didn't come at a cost. They probably just don't understand it from your perspective. They're just too obtuse to understand that you work so hard in order to have that extra space. It's like you put in the work for that room. It's not that you just happen to have it and you're not giving it out because you're selfish. No, that is why you've worked so hard and continue to work 2 jobs. Now, the next day we got this update. She went to jail. Lol. Don't know what happened, but I feel horrible to say I laughed. Well, that solves that issue. Oh my goodness, but that is one of the best updates ever. It's just one line. That is it. Now, OP has left a little edit to highlight her favorite comment, which was, go up to the people that had something to say and tell them they're horrible for not bailing her out. Yeah, that's a very good point, but wow, that's the first time I've ever seen an update on this subreddit, which is literally just one line. That's about 20 words. Phenomenal. Now I want to know what happened. I mean, really, if you think about it, then this is just a win-win for everyone, right? Like, OP doesn't have to deal with her anymore and doesn't have to be badgered by her for her free room or other people in the company saying, come on, you've got the space, man, just do it. And importantly, the coworker now has a place to stay. So everyone's a winner. I am a somewhat popular YouTuber. My wife deleted my recordings because she's never seen me crying and I'm unemotional. This was originally posted on January the 7th, 2015. First of all, please don't ask me who I am and my YouTube alias. I want to keep this anonymous. Anne and I have been married for 9 months. We've been together for 3 years. Our relationship has been pretty smooth and I love her to bits. However, we have a big personality clash. We've lived with it in the past, but it's affected her more than it's affected me. I'm more of a keep it all in guy and I prefer to deal with my issues by myself. She, on the other hand, talks about her issues with me and we work through them together. I've always been a little cold, maybe steely is a better word. I'm not too emotional, not that it's a good or bad thing, it's just the way I am. My wife and I were forced to put down our dog recently. He was my dog before we met, but he became a big part of our family. She loved the heck out of that dog, and I did too. When I lived abroad for a year, he kept her company, and she was very close to him. So we came back from the vet, and she was crying all the way. I was feeling really sad, but I wasn't really showing it. She asked why I wasn't feeling sad. I told her I was. She started screaming at me for not having feelings, me being inhuman, me being cold, and her being scared of me for that. I told her that I cannot force myself to cry, and I was feeling terrible inside. We get home and she went off about I'm barely human and I'm basically an automation. She then went on and on about how she's never seen me cry. Not when we'd broken up 1.5 years into our relationship. Not when my mother died. Not when I was leaving for a year to work abroad. I told her that me crying doesn't solve anything and she should quit bothering me. I went to bed. The next morning, I wake up and decide to edit some videos I wanted to upload. I work from home and I have one main computer to work from. It has 3 hard drives. The first one is my OS drive, the other 2 have recordings on them. I wake up to find the other 2 completely wiped. I freak out and irrationally think that it might have been some software or something. I try and see what the cause was and I can't figure out anything. I put in so much work recording these videos, so much effort had gone into them. I broke down. I had backed up only the recordings from 2 months ago. I'm sobbing hard and I just feel pathetic. I'd lost so much of my work and I couldn't figure out how. My wife then comes in, sees me, I tell her what happened, and she tells me she did it. She wanted to see me cry and didn't know how else to make it happen. She's happy she got to see that some part of me is human. She tells me it was healthy for me to let my emotions out. I swear to God, that is the first time I've ever wanted to hit her. I would have strangled her. I packed up a few things, my laptop, my phone. I got in the car and I told her that I'll call her when I'm ready. I'm staying with a buddy of mine right now, and I need to figure this out. She was all apologetic and loving when I was leaving and was acting confused. I feel nothing but hatred towards her right now, but I need to be tactful in handling this situation. Help me figure it out. I mean, that is genuinely my worst nightmare. I cannot tell you how much that would affect someone like me if that happened. I mean, look, obviously this is my job, but still, I know a lot of you guys out there have probably tried to make YouTube videos, or maybe you are like YouTubers, or you've got your own TikTok or that sort of stuff. Imagine if all that got deleted. I mean, I've been doing this for, what's today's date? You know, almost 6.5 years now, and I still have all my recordings pretty much on my computer. And sometimes I genuinely look back. Actually, no, let's do it right now. I'll just show you on screen like what recordings I have of myself. Okay, so if you're watching on YouTube, you can see my recordings folder. I call it OBS, which is the software I use to record on. It's what most YouTubers use. And this is sort of my folder of all my face cams over the years, like all my sort of desktop recordings. This right here is the current recording. It doesn't have a thumbnail yet, unlike all of these other ones, because it's still going. Well, you might notice as well, there's some football content in there. If you didn't know, I actually make some fantasy football content as well on a separate channel. Comment down below if you want to know more about that. But anyway, point being, these are the most recent, right? And if I just go like this, it just goes on and 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 on. This is going to be quite strange if you're listening on podcast platforms, but it just continues until we get to like this. I mean, let's just look at this. So this is from what? The 24th of November 2020, long time ago. And as you can see on screen, like this is me from what, 5 years ago, and I've still got it, and it's quite nice for me to like look back and see over the years how I sound.
Any lessons? What if you're terrible at driving?
And you know how I look and everything. So, you know, if someone took this away from me and deleted it on purpose, I'd be pretty gutted. But yeah, back to me now in the present. Goodness me. Look a bit older these days. It's a real shame. Point being, this is disastrous. I can't quite believe that this woman has done this to you just because you're unemotional. Now listen, I don't necessarily disagree. I think that it's good to show emotion, right? But this is not the way of getting your partner to show more emotion by like causing them actual trauma or whatever. Like, what the hell? Oh, I've never seen you cry before, so I'm just going to kill your entire family. Okay, and then maybe then you'll shed a tear. It's like so dumb. Anyway, there is an update to come in this one, which I'm hoping that OP is going to be pretty strong here and break up. But let's see. Before that, let's see what the people of Reddit were saying in the comments. Somebody said, "This is funny as heck, OP. But if it actually happened, I would say that is grounds for a divorce, especially if you make a living from YouTube. That's a really childish and stupid way to handle her perception that you lacked emotion." Sorry, what is that comment? First of all, how is it funny? Secondly, I don't think it matters if you make a living from YouTube or not. If this is something you're passionate about and she's destroyed it and all evidence of it, then who cares if you're making money? Anyway, OP replied, "I'm not kidding here. This is something terrible that's happened, and it came out of the blue. I didn't expect her to do something as crazy as this." Somebody else said, more reasonably, "This is all sorts of effed up. Sorry, OP, but she went about this all the wrong way and acted like she was 13. Seems a bit sadistic. You two definitely need counselling to recover from this. That's better." OP said, "Right now, before I even think of saving my marriage, I want to know how to go about confronting her about this. I'm going to take a few days to cool off because I'm mad to the point of physical violence right now. That's why I immediately left as soon as she told me." Somebody else said, "If you would hit your wife over YouTube and you're crying over YouTube more than you did your dog or mother, maybe you both are better off divorcing. Or someone who knows that is where your priorities lie and won't touch the work you do." What is it with these comments today and them just being awful? Who cares how you react to certain things in your life? Like, that's up to you and you can't help that. Also, Why have you written YouTube like that? Like, this probably is this guy's job. As I said, if this same thing happened to me, I'd be devastated because it's what I spend a lot of my waking life doing. Very, very strange comment. Anyway, somebody else said, this is what you do. You confront her by saying, do you have any feelings about a divorce? Go ahead, let them all out. It's healthy for you. It's not about the videos. It's about the absolutely ridiculous worldview she has. Yes, thank you. If you fall down and break your leg, will she keep hitting it until you show the amount of pain she feels is right? I wouldn't trust her with my property, my feelings, or my future. And if I can't trust my spouse, there's no point to the marriage. Opie replied, I texted her. I received a text saying, how are you feeling? I'm annoyed, so I text her, hey, do you have any feelings about a divorce? Go ahead, let them all out. It's healthy for you. Wow, Opie actually did what the comment said. Her response was, baby, I'm really sorry. I didn't mean to do that. Leo died, and I guess it was just too hard on me. I love you so much, and I know what I did was terrible. Please forgive me and come home. I miss you. Let's just talk this through. Leo was our dog. Then another text, please don't do anything rash. We just got married. Why divorce? We have our entire lives ahead of us. Please don't let one mistake of mine ruin that future. I love you. I'm sorry. Please come home, or at least tell me where you are. Yeah, because your dog dying would make you delete all of your husband's work. Very, very, well, I mean, I was going to say very rational, and I'm not saying that you need to be rational when, you know, you have trauma like this, but dog dying leads to delete husband's work just doesn't make any sense anyway. Like, doesn't matter if you're in grief or mourning or whatever. It's just so weird. Anyway, let's get into the update. 5 days later, a lot has happened. I'm not going to cover all the events of the past few days, but here's the most important stuff. Data. I had a friend hook me up to a local store that specializes in this. Proper recovery is expensive, but they said that since no data is rewritten, it's possible. I'm waiting to hear from them tomorrow. That is great news. I didn't actually think about that, but yes, I'm sure there is a way that if you get a bit lucky and you use the right people, you can recover your files. Divorce. I decided that I'm not going to ask for a divorce. What happened was bad, but not divorce worthy. I want to give this a chance. Okay, fair enough. Wife. I went back to her. She was crying. It looked like she had been for a long time. I went in and she hugged me and cried even more, apologizing profusely. When she got a little more stable, we talked. She started by saying that she understood how badly she effed up. She said that I'm well warranted to ask for a divorce. However, she said that she will never do something like this again and that she doesn't want to spend the rest of her life in regret. She begged me for one last chance. Having had a wonderful relationship before this, I decided that I wanted to give her another chance. I asked her to explain why she did what she did. She said that first, Leo's death really got to her. Second, she confessed that she always felt like the weaker one in the relationship. She felt completely alone when she cried. I made a mental note to comfort her better when she's a little emotional, but she said that she understood right now. And she said that she felt terrible to engage in such power play and that she understood that we're just different people. She told me she really regretted her actions and wanted one chance to make it up to me. Thank you for your help and suggestions. Also, marriage counseling. We're getting an appointment to get through this issue. Okay, guys, comment down below. Now, this was over 10 years ago, right? This was January 2015, wasn't it? And today is the 7th of May, 2025. Do you think, and be honest here, that these two people are still together? I want to know your thoughts. Pause the episode. Even if you're on a podcast platform, you can still comment down below in the Q&A section. Let me know before I give what I think is a pretty obvious answer. Okay, have you done that? Good. Let's get back to my thoughts, which are, of course, much more important than all of yours. Anyway, you think I'm joking? I am. I see no way in which these two people are still together. I think that, fundamentally, they just seem incompatible. Like, I don't think actually either of them are really wrong about how they feel about certain things. But if you're with somebody and they're just too stoic for you, they're too unemotional, and you can't deal with that, which clearly this woman can't deal with that from you, then maybe you're not the right person for her. And similarly, the other way around, I kind of see how this is going to continue to be an issue in the future. Like, some people like the fact that, oh, I'm really emotional, my partner is not that emotional, it works well. and vice versa. Like, I don't really show my emotions, but my partner does, and that's a good combination. But if you like fundamentally don't like that about your partner, then I think it's not going to work, to be honest. Also, OP says, we've had a great relationship so far, but you did break up a year and a half ago. So I reckon there's probably more going on there as well. Also, like, I don't know, you've not been together like that long. I know you're married, but still. I hope you're still together in a way. I just think it's unlikely. Maybe I'm being a pessimist here. You guys let me know in the comments down below. I do agree. I don't think this is worth divorcing over. I do just think it's one of the weirdest things that I've ever heard, though. And I can't stress enough how angry I would be and just distraught if somebody did this to me on purpose. My mother-in-law asked my husband to subscribe to her OnlyFans to support her. My mother-in-law, who is 40, has always been very open about sex. When I first met my husband, she managed a sex toy store. About a year ago, she started working towards a degree on sexual health and wellness. She nude models for a local artist, and around a month ago, she started an OnlyFans account. Sex and an openness about it has always been an extraordinarily normal thing for her. I have absolutely nothing against her working in the sex industry. That's her forte, and I'm happy that she's doing well and enjoying what she does. However, I've had some slight concerns about it before. Not specifically her working in the sex industry or her openness in general, more so how open she is, especially with her own kids. For example, my husband and I started dating in high school when she was managing the sex store. When she'd come home from work, she would stop by my husband's boyfriend at the time's room and hand us sample sizes of different lubes and sensation creams, saying, "I thought you guys might want to try some of these." It always made us both pretty uncomfortable, and it was extremely awkward to have my boyfriend's mum hand me things to try sexually with her son. But nonetheless, the most conversation that my husband and I ever had about it back then was about how awkward it was. Awkward and uncomfortable enough that we never actually used these things. They just piled up on a shelf by his bed. Another time, while we were dating, fresh out of high school, we were hanging out with his sisters. His mum was still working at the sex toy shop. Once in a while, she'd come home with silly toys, and on this night, she walked in with a 1 foot long, glittery you-know-what. She playfully whipped it around towards us like a sword. His sisters screamed and ran from her, and for a while, we all laughed and had fun about it, snatching it from one another and chasing each other around with the glitter schlong. Not quite sure I can say that, but anyway. Eventually, my husband's sister, who was 17 at the time, said something like, "Mum, you better not have brought that home to use. That's crazy." My husband chimed off an "ooh," saying he didn't want to think about that. And his mum laughed and replied, "Oh no, that's silicone. You know the toys that I use are glass." Again, my husband made a weird face but didn't say anything. When we got to his room, I said that it was weird that his mum talked to her children about what she used to get her rocks off. And he told me that she's always been way too open about things that none of them wanted to know, but that she's always just been this way, so he's gotten used to tuning it out. As time went on, I got used to the openness, and it was just that, being too open about personal stuff within conversation. However, yesterday the openness went too far. My husband and I were sitting in our living room watching TV. My husband got a text from his mum and opened it and had a visceral reaction. He tossed his phone down, stood up, walked away from it with his hands over his face while saying things like, "Oh my god," and "holy trash" under his breath. Naturally, I thought someone had died, so I started frantically asking what was wrong. All he said was that he didn't even want to open his phone again. I asked again what was wrong, and he told me that his mum just sent him pictures. I was confused, but my concern started to grow. I asked what he meant by pictures, and he hesitated before saying, "I don't want to ask you to look, but I can't open it back up to delete it myself, so I need you to." My stomach dropped. I opened his phone to see what was there, and I immediately felt nauseous. There was a text that read, "Hey, I know you've always supported me, and I wanted to see if you'd be willing to subscribe to my OnlyFans so that I can get my numbers up while I'm getting started. Of course, I don't expect or want you looking through it, but the more subscriber numbers I have, the more engagement I can get. I was also wondering if you'd be willing to share my link to some of your friends at work. My husband is in a male-dominated blue-collar job. The pics I included are to send to them with the link, but don't tell them I'm your mum. And under was the pictures. There were 3 nude photos of his mother. And not just naked in a mirror or pic of the boobs kind of photos. They were full-on pornographic photos. One of her tied up in BDSM gear. One of her face down, butt up on her bed. And one of her with legs spread and a you-know-what halfway in her mouth. My blood was boiling. I deleted what she'd sent, and my husband and I were both silent for a moment. I didn't know what else to say or do, so I broke the silence by asking, what now? My husband told me to block his mum on his phone, so I did. I asked if this was something his mum has done before, and he said no. He told me that in the past, she's asked if he wanted to see pictures of the drawings she posed for. He always felt a bit guilty saying no, so he simply didn't respond when she asked, and she never sent it. Then my husband went pale and started walking to the bathroom, saying he felt sick. While he was in there, I blocked his mum on my phone as well, including her social media. When my husband came back out of the bathroom, he called his sister. He asked her if she was with their mum, and when she said no, he explained to her what had just gone down. His sister was also speechless. Then he asked her not to say anything to other family members right now, and explained that neither him or I would be in contact with their mum for a while. He also told her that any time we were home for a visit, he would let his sisters know so that we could plan to see them, but that his mum would not be included in those plans from here on out. My mother-in-law quickly realised that she was blocked on everything by the both of us, and by that night, she had the whole family blowing up our phones asking why. The constant messages haven't stopped, and so far, we've just muted our phones as we don't even know what to say. How do you explain that your mother sent you her homemade prawn? Okay, so there we go. That is it for the original post. As I said in the introduction, we have a couple of updates to come in this one. Before we get into the first update though, let's first of all have a look at some of the comments. Somebody said under this first post, quoting, "Covert incest is a form of non-physical sexual abuse. Examples of covert incest could be the parents sharing intimate, graphic details of their own sex life to the child, practicing voyeurism, exhibitionism, inappropriate sharing of images, and similar behaviors that, while still being sexual abuse, are described as covert for their intangible nature." Yeah, that all makes a lot of sense to me. That sounds exactly like covert incest. Goodness me. OP replied saying, "Thank you for these comments. I've never heard of covert incest, but now I know exactly what is going on, and my husband and I both have some reading up to do." Somebody else said, "When anyone asks why she's blocked, tell them the truth. She sent her OF link and pornographic photos of herself to him, and that crossed a major boundary that he shouldn't have even had to place. Her behavior when he was younger is concerning. I'd be discussing it with a therapist to decide how to move forward, as there is likely some more vomit-inducing things in his past that he might not realise are actually things she groomed him to believing was normal." OP replied to this saying, "This has been a concern of mine since the sex toy discussion, and this incident affirmed that for me. When my husband gets home, I plan on asking about the past a bit, but I don't want to pry, as I don't want to rehash something that he isn't ready to discuss with me, especially things that could be traumatizing. I do know that when we were dating, there was a bit of an issue with her asking explicit details about his sex life, and even about me. Do you prefer a clean-shaved girl? Was one of them. Despite him not answering, she gave him a bikini shaving set from her shop to give to me. Have you tried these positions? I think she would enjoy them. Are you guys using lube? You need to be using lube. Does she prefer ribbed condoms? To name just a few. I know these things made my husband wildly uncomfortable, and when I asked him why he never said to just stop, he told me he has in the past, but she got extremely defensive and acted offended. She would go on a tangent about how she wanted him to be comfortable, coming to her about everything, and how sex was a normal part of life that they should be able to discuss. That's always been something that concerned me. We both go to regular counselling, so again, without prying, I'm going to suggest diving into his mother's past with this behaviour in therapy." And finally, somebody suggested it would be a good time for your husband to tell your mother-in-law that he's going to take a break from her. An email saying he's wanted to support her in her interests, even though they disturb him. This request that she send those personal pictures of herself to co-workers is highly inappropriate. Whether or not he told them she was a relative, that is his job. Those are unsolicited sexual pictures. They are pictures of his mother, which he personally finds disturbing. Those are co-workers who could report him to his superiors. His mother is old enough to know that 1, it's inappropriate to be sharing sexual details with her children unless they have asked her to. 2, unsolicited sexual content is unsuitable for sharing in general public unless it is acceptable, i.e. Pride Day, a health fair, fetish flea, etc. And 3, soliciting sexual content in the workplace is a potential firing offence. It's time for your husband to be blunt with your mother-in-law and tell her she is deeply disturbing him. Opie replied to this, "My husband is in the military. It isn't just a firing, it's a sharp case with a dishonourable discharge." Wow, well that, if possible, makes it even worse. Now, was anyone else, while listening to that, thinking about the start of sex education? Like specifically episode 1, season 1, episode 1. If you've not seen it, you might not be sure what I'm saying here. And I haven't seen the whole series, I'm going to be honest. I've just watched like a few episodes of the first season. I know I should watch more. All right, I get it. Relax. But I was kind of thinking, if you don't know, one of the main characters' mums is like a sex therapist. And she's pretty obviously openly sexual, or not sexual, but like she doesn't hide away from talking about sex with her son, and that makes him pretty uncomfortable, whatever. So I was kind of getting that sort of vibe and thinking, you know what, like, yeah, this is really, really strange, but it's not the end of the world. But it just got weirder and weirder and weirder. And look, I'm not against sort of, children and parents having that sort of relationship where they talk about everything and they talk about sex and what they've been up to in their free time. I'm all for that. I'm not saying I have that relationship myself with my parents. Maybe one day, I doubt it. It's not really my vibe or theirs, I don't think. But I know some of my friends who will speak about that sort of stuff with their parents pretty openly. Power to them. I think just, it's getting a little bit too far here. Even before the pictures and saying, oh yeah, do you want to just share my OnlyFans? That's right, your mum's OnlyFans to all your co-workers. Even before that, I think we were overstepping a couple of boundaries. And when that person is listed in the comments down below, covert incest, and given the definition there, I mean, this is exactly what it is. It's not physical incest, but sending your son like nudes of yourself, it's got to be illegal. And I think it is. Okay, let's get into the first update here. This was posted on the same day, 15 hours later. When my husband got home from work today, he did have me recover the messages for evidence should it be needed. That's a good idea, actually. I screenshotted the message with timestamps and each of the photos. In the photos, I scribbled over her not so private areas as well. After that, I sent the images to my phone and once again deleted the messages from his phone, both in his mother's texts and mine, per husband's request. This was something that several people suggested in the comments of the previous post. And believe me, we were on the same page before I even read them. My husband and I are also regulars in therapy, both individual and couples counselling. When we got married, we agreed that doing counselling from the get-go was a good idea. Not because we have problems in our marriage, but it gives us the tools to confront issues in the future and keeps us on the same page 100% of the time. That being said, I asked my husband if he'd ever mentioned his mother's sexualness in his own therapy, and he said no. Since it's how he's always been raised, he saw it as mostly normal. I suggested this should most definitely be brought up at his next session, and he agreed. I also asked if there was anything that has happened that was a bit overboard in the past. Outside of conversation, he said that his mother would often come home from work with new lingerie, and she would put it on and wear it around the house for the rest of the night as if they were regular clothes. When she'd do this, he'd either stay in his room or go to a friend's house because it made him uncomfortable. Yeah, this woman is weird. I think we all know that. But she's becoming weirder and weirder the more we find out about her. And this, as I said, is bordering, if not is already there, in terms of breaking the law. Several people asked why there hasn't been a conversation about her talking about uncomfortable topics. There has been. When my husband and I were dating, both of us minors, she would talk to my husband about our sex life explicitly. Some of the questions she'd ask him are if he likes girls who are clean shaven, if him and I were using lube, if I preferred rib condoms, if we tried certain positions, even if I preferred stimulation via clitoris or G-spot. Wow. When she'd ask these things, my husband simply wouldn't answer with more than, I don't know, but eventually he did tell her to stop. He told her that he didn't want to talk about these things with her, that he knew I wouldn't want her talking about those things with her, and that her asking this stuff made him extremely uncomfortable. Her response was to get defensive and act as if she'd been disrespected. She would say that sex was normal, that she should be able to have these conversations with her son. She even accused him of shaming her sexuality. So he just went back to ignoring the questions altogether. Some suggested that we have an in-person conversation with her about this happening. Not only do we live far away, but we aren't ready for a conversation about it. And we especially aren't ready to discuss it in person. This happened yesterday afternoon, and it will honestly be a very long time before any sort of communication happens with her at all. I did find out what she'd been telling family. She's telling them that she asked if her son supported her, not if he would subscribe and share her content. That is why family have been reaching out and asking why we blocked her for asking that. We will be telling family exactly what happened, but we aren't quite ready to do so yet, and that will come within the next few days. We're still processing all of what's going on. My husband has a therapy session tomorrow, and we have one together the next day. We'll likely wait to talk about this with family until after our sessions. That way we can get our ducks in a row a bit more, and we're even considering legal action. Again, that is something we'll bring up with our therapists before continuing. That is the main reason we took screenshot evidence. For those curious, yes, mother-in-law is young. She had my husband at 16, 17, and we got married young as well. Very common among my family and in the field of work he is in. And that field of work is the military. So him sharing his mother's content would heavily affect him. Not just the firing, that would give him a SHARP, which is sexual harassment/assault response and prevention case, and a possible dishonorable discharge, which would make it extremely difficult to go on after the military. That is all I have for an update right now, but trust that there will be another. Thank you so much for all the advice and support I received on my last post. I seriously gained such good info from the comments, and it's been really helpful. Okay, so before we get into the final update, which was posted just 2 days later, just want to read this one comment. Somebody said, "This is so, I have no words for it, just effed up. What she did was sexual harassment, sending pornographic content without consent, not to mention the whole childhood. There is something like being sex positive, yeah, but then there's harassment, and his mother definitely crossed the line over and over again." Yeah, that's what I was trying to say. Like, I think sex positivity can be a good thing, but I mean, we're nowhere near this. Arguably, we never were. From the very beginning here, as soon as she started, like, you know, getting toys involved and stuff and like chucking dildos around, probably went a little bit too far. Now, someone asked an interesting question. Does OP's husband look like his biological father? And you can probably sort of see what they're getting at there. OP said, "Actually, crazy that you mention it. My husband looks exactly like his bio dad. I mean, down to the hair color, same eyes, and when my husband has facial hair, it's uncanny. He even has a similar tattoo in a similar spot that his bio dad had." Of course, we had no idea at the time because my husband's dad walked out when he was very young. But after he got that tattoo, his mother mentioned that it was in the same spot, with the exception of a few details. It was practically the same tattoo. Okay then, so final update. My husband and I have spoken with therapists about the entire situation, and we've drawn a conclusion to how we will handle things. As advised by our therapist and based on what we've planned ourselves, my mother-in-law will be cut off until she does the self-work and is no longer overly sexual towards family. That being said, my husband and I are prepared for her to be cut off permanently. She will likely not attend therapy herself, as she sees it as unimportant. I'm not sure if her opinion comes from her visiting a therapist previously, but she does believe that, quote, "Therapists just tell you everything wrong with yourself and why you need to change. They don't actually try to help your mental health, just make it worse," end quote. I'm sure everyone can imagine what has caused her to draw those conclusions. As of now, my husband and I will not be pushing legal action. We've decided that for us at this time, we'd prefer to lay down the law in what we feel comfortable with. If that's respected, that's great, and nothing more will come of it on our end. If that isn't, and there are more attempts to reach us, such as creating accounts, etc., we'll most likely seek out a restraining order. As I mentioned previously, I've saved the screenshots from the original issue, so we will have that to present if needed. On to family. As a reminder, my husband's side of the family was blowing up our phones, asking why on earth we'd block my mother-in-law. Well, what she told them was that we blocked her after she simply asked for our support in the things she's doing. What they didn't know was that she sent the photos. We told them. We didn't send the photos, of course, but we did describe them. Things were understood quickly and nothing more was said. I don't know if family has taken it upon themselves to confront her about this. If they have, great, she needs it. If they haven't, oh well. Now, from our perspective, I was raised in a family where everything was very taboo. Sex, sexuality, our bodies, even our periods were difficult to talk about. So much so that when my mum found out I had a crush on a boy when I was 13, I cried and profusely apologized because I thought I'd be in a lot of trouble. Asking questions wasn't okay either, so when I did have questions, I couldn't simply ask. For example, I overheard my mum say the word prawn and I didn't know what it meant. I asked what it meant and I got sent to my room. So, at 7 years old, I grabbed the family tablet and I googled it. I saw a bunch of naked people, got scared, put the iPad back in the living room. When my parents checked the search history that night, I was screamed at and not allowed to touch electronics for the rest of the year. So, with all of that in mind, a sex-positive family was so incredibly foreign to me. The idea of being able to go to your mum, ask about sex or your body, and have a conversation instead of getting in trouble was completely new. When my husband and I were dating, I never knew that his mum was going too far. I thought that this simply was sex positivity. Of course, I had intuition that things went too far at times, like when I questioned the toy conversation, but when the response to my questions were, she's just really open, I chalked it up to that, and I didn't really question it anymore. To answer some common questions, my mother-in-law is not this much when it comes to her daughters. I always assumed it was because they were younger, but the pictures being sent to only my husband really hammered the nail into the covert incest coffin. Come to find out, my mother-in-law also isn't quite as open with my sister-in-laws. She's open about her own doings, but doesn't meddle in their own like she did my husband. I mentioned before that she'd questioned my husband on our sex life when we were dating. Another phone call with my middle sister-in-law revealed that she's absolutely never done that to the girls. In fact, there have been times where she's overheard my sister-in-law saying something about their boyfriends, and she'd say, lower your voice, I don't want to know. Whereas she would straight up ask my husband about sex. Wow, very interesting. Another common question was, where's father-in-law? Well, he's never been in the picture. As I said, he left when my mother-in-law was pregnant with her youngest daughter. My mother-in-law also doesn't have a father herself because he left when she was a baby, and there aren't a lot of men in the family. 2 distant uncles, a few cousins, but as far as close family, my husband was the only male growing up. My husband looks exactly like his bio dad. Same build, same hair type and colour, same bone structure, same eye shape, even a very similar birthmark. That fact makes this even more gross altogether. Why does that make it gross? I see. Took me a second there, guys, but I see. So your mother-in-law is attracted to her own son. Is that really what the conclusion of this story is? That? I mean, I don't want that to be the case, but I think with all the information it has to be. Anyway, let's finish this off. And finally, OP says, no, we don't have children. However, I have always had concerns about leaving children alone with her because of the openness. I will know when my future children are ready to know about certain topics, and those conversations will come from my husband and I, and only us. I've always been concerned that my mother-in-law would discard our opinions on that and give our future children the bird and the bees talk whenever she felt like it. Unless she cannot fix whatever is wrong in her brain, she will not ever be alone with our kids, and even possibly never know them. But overall, this is my final in the whole situation. Thank you so much to everyone for all of the advice. I didn't even know the term covert incest before posting, and I'm grateful that I do now. It's given my husband and I something to do a little research about, and it's changed our perspective on the past quite a bit. My husband will be taking all of this into therapy more than just his last sessions, and at my next personal session, I'll likely bring it up too. It's also a topic that will be discussed at counselling together more than just yesterday's session as well. Again, thank you everyone. Okay, let's round things off with a couple of comments. Somebody said, this is definitely some form of essay to your husband, and I'm glad you two are taking the steps to process it and get to the root cause, as well as protecting yourselves. What she's done is wildly inappropriate and frankly disgusting. Somebody else said, your mother-in-law is not going to go to therapy until she finds a problem within herself, which seems unlikely. Just like addicts, they won't get clean until they truly want to do it for themselves. She has to hit rock bottom and want to change for herself. Going no contact is probably the best solution. Your poor husband. It's one thing to ask for support, but to actually ask your own child to subscribe to your OnlyFans is gross. Wow, what a final sentence there. Just in case you'd forgotten what happened in that story. This mum asked her son to subscribe to her OnlyFans. I mean, I honestly, I sort of want to just do a round of applause there for the most ludicrous title and story of all time. And I know I do say that quite often, but wow. Imagine asking your son, mate, just sub to my OF. It's only $5 a month and you get to see feet pics. Come on, sign up. What is going on, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. I hope you're all doing well. Today I've got for you the most ridiculous Reddit story title of all time. Am I the jerk for not attending my daughter's gender reveal for her lizard? Yep. Seriously, this is what it's come to. This is literally really stupid, but she's really upset about it. So, I am 48, and my daughter, who is 23, has a blue-tongued skink who she heavily adores. Now, for those of you watching on YouTube, OP has added some pictures of her lizard, which I'm showing on screen now. Also, guys, in case you were wondering, and I didn't know this myself, skinks are a type of lizard. They're characterized by their smaller legs in comparison to typical lizards. They also apparently have no pronounced neck, which, yeah, I can sort of see that. Where's your neck, mate? Anyway, OP continues. She jokingly refers to it as her daughter. I found it weird, but she says it's because it's the closest thing she'd have to a child, and she feels a strong emotional bond, similar to a child. She's decided to remain child-free for multiple reasons, and I've been very supportive of this decision. Well, she recently took her skink to the vet for a checkup, and she was excited to find out its gender. Afterwards, I got a text asking if I'd come to her gender reveal party she was having. She explained it was just a small get-together with cake and food for her friends that she hasn't seen in a while, with the gender reveal being mostly a joke and a way to make fun of real gender reveals. Well, I didn't come. I didn't see a point. It's just a lizard, and I'm a busy person. She later called me and expressed she was kind of sad I didn't come because it had been a while since I'd seen her, but she understood I was busy. I told her she couldn't actually expect me to come to a gender reveal for a lizard. She said that it wasn't a real gender reveal, it was more of a joke. Really, it was just a small gathering to catch up with everyone. I told her if that was the case, she should have just called it a gathering, because I'm not coming to a gender reveal unless it's for a real granddaughter. She got quiet for a minute, and then turned my words around, claiming I wasn't supportive of her decision to be child-free. I told her she can't possibly expect me to treat a lizard as a granddaughter. She said she didn't expect me to, but it was clear I didn't respect her bond with her lizard and her decision, and she just wanted to see me, and my reason for not coming was hurtful. I told her she was being ridiculous over a lizard. She claimed it wasn't over the lizard and it was a gathering and not even centered around the lizard, but I stick by what I said. It's ridiculous to have a gender reveal for a lizard. She hung up, and I got a message from her best friend about how I'm a jerk for treating her that way. But I don't think I'm the jerk for not wanting to go to a party for a lizard. Right, before I give my thoughts on this, and goodness me, I have a lot. Firstly, OP has left a few edits below her original post. Number 1, my issue is that she said the party was a gender reveal. If she called it just a party, I would have come. But calling it a gender reveal makes it sound like it's for the lizard, and I'm not going to that even if it is a joke. 2, I don't know why it matters, but the skink is a girl, which is why I said I'm not coming to a gender reveal unless it's for a real granddaughter. Okay, not quite sure how you know it's a girl before the gender reveal, but I guess that sort of adds to it. Like, clearly this is a joke. Anyway, number 3. Even though I don't agree with my daughter for being child-free, goodness, I've been supportive and only shown mild frustration. The reasons she's decided to be child-free are that she claims she's asexual, she just doesn't want one, she has emotional baggage and feels unable to care for a real child, she fears pregnancy, and she has a carrier gene like me and doesn't want to go through what I did. I had 4 miscarriages and a highly defected child that died after 3 months due to the gene. Yes, there's been slight tension between us because I think she just hasn't found the right man yet. She never dated growing up, and her other fears are unnecessarily exaggerated, but it's ultimately her decision, and I don't resent her. And 4, we haven't seen each other in 3 months. I'm a single mother, and we've always been close, which is why she invited me with her friends. I just didn't want to go to a party with a lizard. And if it wasn't for the lizard, she should have called it a party instead of a gender reveal. Okay, well, not quite sure what I've just read there, but that definitely has to go down as one of the weirdest posts I've read in a long time. And you'll be surprised to hear that what I've just said there has nothing to do with the fact that this story revolves around a lizard gender reveal party. I actually don't really care about that at all. That's completely fine. Like, that's just a bit of fun. I get it. I would do the same sort of thing. That's just funny. Like, who does that? A gender reveal party for a lizard? It's just good banter. It really is. But the reason I say this is so weird is because this woman, this mum, just is so clueless. Like, it's actually unbelievable. She just sounds like the most boring mum, or like strictest, least fun mum ever. No. Your daughter isn't seriously being like, oh my goodness, please come and find out that the gender of my lizard with me. I can't wait. And by the way, I'm not taking away from the fact that clearly, like, you know, her lizard is very important for her, and I completely understand that. But to not understand that this is all a bit of a joke and it's just really an excuse to see her friends and you, who you haven't seen her for 3 months, quite a long time, yeah, you must just be pretty dumb. I mean, I'm not sure. I feel like there's a little bit of resentment here because, you know, number 3 there from the edit, even though I don't agree with my daughter being child-free, I have been supportive and only shown mild frustration. And then you've given the reasons as to why pretty much you think she's just making everything up and she hasn't found the right man yet, in your words. Yeah, not the most supportive of parents here. To be honest, reading through the whole of the first post, it's not that surprising that you just didn't understand this entire premise. But anyway, let's get into the comments of people on Reddit and see if they are along the same sort of lines as what I'm saying. Okay, let's get into the comments. Somebody said, I think this is the issue right here. OP is stingy with love. Why should I love a stupid lizard? Well, why can't you get interested in the things your kid likes and share her excitement and joy? Just the little things? No, she's never going to have kids, so you could have seen that adorable, quirky kid you raised to be as funny and sweet as she is, and gone to her party and mingled with her, probably also quirky, funny, sweet friends, and had a lovely time. But no, what a loss. How sad. OP replies to this saying, I'll be honest, I don't have any particular feelings for the lizard. I think it looks like a snake and that freaks me out, and it's incapable of feeling emotions, so I don't know why she feels a bond with it. She even named it Ellie, a human name, so she can tell people, I have to get home to Ellie, so she can act like she's busy with a kid at home, which I believe is an unhealthy way to cope with her social anxiety. She should learn to get comfortable with saying no, instead of using a lizard as an excuse to neglect social obligations. Wow, what a terrible reply. That is shockingly bad. There's so much wrong with that. Fair play, OP. Somebody else said, huge, you're the jerk here. At first, I was like, okay, I get it. She jokes about it being for the lizard. Then I got to your updates. She claims she's asexual. So you've totally invalidated your 23-year-old daughter who knows very well by now who the heck she is. Your following comment, I think she just hasn't found the right man she never dated growing up. Hello, she was waving a huge flag here. She's asexual. If she came out as lesbian, would you say she just hasn't met the right man? Next, you invalidate her fears of going through the same heartbreak that you went through trying to have other kids, from miscarriages to a child who passed after a so short life. Not everyone is as emotionally stunted as you that they could speak of those situations so devoid of feeling. I'm actually tearing up thinking about what you went through and how in your small mind you wish your own surviving child would go through it as well, just to pop out a kid. Yeah, great point. Get over yourself, mum, in quotes, and yes quotes, because you do not deserve that title any longer. I hope this shows your amazing asexual daughter that her life is 1,000 times better without you in it. Also, for your sake, go and get therapy. You need to reconnect with your emotions. Wow. Hard-hitting words, but I completely agree with them. OP replied, saying, I wouldn't say I've invalidated her. She says she doesn't experience sexual or romantic attraction, nor has a want for it, which is only because she hasn't found the right person yet. It's impossible for someone to not feel such a natural feeling. Everyone feels it. It's a normal chemical in our body. I've tried to explain this to her. For some reason, she fears physical interaction with men. I think her fears probably stem from not having a father because he left when she was 3. I wonder why he left. No offense, but you know what I mean. Yes, it was hard on me. There were many tears, and it's partly why her father left. Okay, that's probably not the reason, but that's what mothers do. She knows how important to me it is that I finally gave birth to a child that actually lived to grow up, and it does hurt that she wouldn't continue for me when I went through that pain. That's why there's been tension for her decision, and I'll admit, I'm unhappy with it, but I've been as supportive as I can, and I haven't been mean about it. Yeah, clearly. I mean, this person is just an absolute clown. And then one final comment, which I think sums it up pretty well. So wait, this commenter says, and then they quote, "Afterwards, I got a text asking if I'd come to her gender reveal party she was having. She explained it was just a small get-together with cake and food for her friends that she hasn't seen in a while, with the gender reveal being mostly a joke and a way to make fun of real gender reveals. But then you say, 2 paragraphs later, I told her she couldn't actually expect me to come to a gender reveal for a lizard. She said it wasn't a real gender reveal, that was more of a joke. Really, it was just a small gathering to catch up with everyone. I told her if that was the case, she should have just called it a gathering because I'm not coming to a gender reveal unless it's for a real granddaughter. You just told on yourself, OP. She'd already told you it was a joke and you refused to go out of spite because she won't have kids. Then you had the gall to fricking gaslight her. In fact, she told you twice that the party wasn't actually for the lizard. But to the very end of your post, you keep saying it was for the lizard. Very good point. Opie replied, she kept labeling that it was a gender reveal though. She bought a cake that says it's a girl and popped a pink sparkly glitter popper too, which I think is ridiculous. The lizard can't appreciate or love this. It can't even feel emotions. This person just gets more and more stupid with each and every reply. It's insane. Have you considered the fact, maybe because 100 people have told you this pretty much in the comments, and your daughter explicitly told you this multiple times, that the lizard gender reveal might just be a joke, and actually, she just wants to see her friends and you? Crazy thought, I know. Now, what is great about this post is that the next day, OP's daughter's best friend actually found it on Reddit and replied in the comments, saying this, "You are the jerk. And I'm surprised you had the gall to post this, knowing your daughter frequents Reddit. This is the best friend that texted you. You blocked my number, not that it matters. You know it wasn't about the reveal, it was an excuse to hold a party. Look, we had fun without you. The lizard had an adorable tiny party hat. We had cake that said, it's a girl, and we popped a glittery sparkly party popper. It got all over the walls and ceiling, and our friend John. And we started making jokes like, call the EMS for John, and they do say gender reveals are dangerous. Who knew? But I'm sure she sent you the video so you know what you missed out on. We made fun of it for the most part and blasted The Last of Us music, since that's where Ellie's name comes from, not because she wanted an excuse for her social anxiety. She struggled with her identity for years and you were never supportive. When she was trying to figure out if she was lesbian, you sat her down for 30 minutes and explained how it's normal to get feelings confused, but people weren't meant to like the same gender, and it was probably just friendship feelings that she was confusing. You're part of the reason she never explored her sexuality further with your sex is natural and you can't have a relationship without sex comments, knowing not only is she mildly autistic and already struggles to understand and comprehend her emotions, but she's also a victim of a negative experience. You know she has a codependency issue and living by herself has been really difficult for her to overcome, and Ellie has helped immensely. She was upset you didn't come when she wanted to see you because she adores you, and you didn't even call her for Thanksgiving. Wow, and there we go, a scathing comment from OP's daughter's best friend, but it's all very valid. The one thing I'm thinking, and to be honest with you guys, I was thinking about this before I read that last comment from OP's daughter's best friend. I was sort of getting autistic vibes, and I mean that in, you know, in every correct sense of the word. Like, I genuinely did think that OP might be autistic or be somewhere on the spectrum. Because, forgive me if you guys think I'm wrong here, but I think it's impossible for her to not understand what is going on here unless she has some sort of autism. Like, it's obvious that the gender reveal party thing is a bit of a joke. It's just a bit of fun. It's not like really serious. I know OP's daughter really loves Ellie, but that's not actually the point. I think anyone could see that, unless perhaps you had some sort of difficulty. I'm not sure. Let me know in the comments what you guys think. But now hearing that OP's daughter has autism, and knowing that autism is very genetic. And I think something like 80% of people with autism have inherited it. I might be wrong there. I'll check that actually. But, if that is the case, then maybe autism runs in this family and OP has it as well. And that could explain why you have reacted the way you've reacted, which just makes no sense to me. Yeah, apparently around 80% of autism cases can be linked to inherited genetic mutations. So maybe that makes sense. I don't know. I feel like there's just too much going on here that cannot be explained without thinking that maybe OP is autistic. Because, if you read that whole thing again, knowing that OP is autistic, I think it all makes sense. So I don't want to assume that you're autistic, OP, but I don't know. You guys watching right now that do have autism, I know there'll be quite a lot of you. Let me know in the comments down below. What do you think? Are these autistic tendencies? Is this potentially something that autistic people struggle with? That lack of emotional awareness and understanding? Because for someone like me who isn't autistic, this is a very, very strange post. I mean, look, there are people out there that aren't autistic and are just sort of emotionless and just weird. And maybe she does actually slightly resent her daughter because she doesn't believe in anything apart from being heterosexual, and she really wants a granddaughter, so she just doesn't like her. That could also be the case. I'm not sure. Let me know in the comments down below. Do you agree with me or not on that one? And what are your thoughts in general? But overall, some post. My girlfriend of 4 years just told me that she's pregnant. I'm a woman, so it can't be mine. But she swears she didn't cheat. What do I do? I'm still in shock, so bear with me. My life feels like a soap opera right now. Apologies, this will probably be long. Here's some background. My girlfriend Anna and I have been together for 4 years, with intentions of getting engaged sometime this year. To clarify, we are 2 women in a relationship. I am a lesbian, I always have been, but Anna is bisexual and has had serious relationships with men in the past. This has never been an issue for us because we love each other and we have a healthy and stable relationship. But now, as you can imagine, I'm second guessing everything. So what went down? In the last month, Anna had been complaining about putting on weight, particularly in her stomach area. Anna is thin and athletic, so the little belly she developed is noticeable. She's been going to the gym more and started eating much healthier than she usually does. We didn't notice any improvements with her weight loss though, but I told her it takes time. She'll eventually lose the weight. Pregnancy never ever crossed my mind for obvious reasons. Last week, she really started freaking out about her weight gain, so she scheduled a doctor's appointment. She had the appointment yesterday afternoon, and afterwards, she called me at work and told me that we needed to talk. I could tell she'd been crying. I'm freaking out at this point now, thinking that she's terminally ill or something. I start tearing up, asking her to just tell me what's wrong, but she insists on meeting at home. I leave work immediately, and I get home to see her sitting on the couch, her face puffy from crying. I'm shaking, and tears are streaming down my face. I ask her about the doctor's appointment and what is going on. She can barely get the words out through her sobs. She tells me that she went to the doctor and that they told her that she is 13 weeks pregnant. I stop crying, but my brain is trying to comprehend what she just told me. All I could say was, "What?" over and over. She is still sobbing, saying that she's so confused and she has no idea how this happened. I've never really seen her in a state like that. She seems genuinely upset and confused, but then again, so am I. As I started registering what is going on, I ask, "Did you sleep with someone?" And she only starts crying more, swearing on her life that she didn't sleep with anyone. So I'm like, "But you did. You're pregnant. There is no way that you didn't cheat on me." To which she replies, "I have no freaking clue how this happened, but I swear to God, I didn't sleep with anyone. You have to believe me." We go back and forth for 30 minutes or so, both of us still confused. I told her that I needed to think, so I called a friend and spent last night at his house. I've been talking with friends and everyone is confused, but agreeing that Anna must have cheated on me. I keep playing over our conversations in my head though, like if she knew that she had slept with a guy and that she could be pregnant, why would she go to the doctor? Why wouldn't she have just gotten an abortion secretly? She could have used the Plan B pill just in case. Like, she could have gotten away with this. Maybe I'm being foolish here, but it genuinely seems like she had no idea why she was gaining the weight in her stomach. A couple of nights we talked at length about possibilities as to why she might be gaining the weight just in that region, and pregnancy never crossed our minds. I'm also playing back the potential date that she could have cheated on me, considering she's 13 weeks along. We live together, we have similar work schedules, both 9 to 5 jobs, and if I'm thinking of the right week that this could have happened, there's nothing that stands out of the ordinary to me. There weren't any late nights or suspicious activity that would have concerned me. I feel like I'm driving myself crazy, and I feel like I can't trust her. She's been texting me asking if we can talk, and I told her that I need more time. I want to believe that she is telling me the truth, but I can't think of any reason how she could be pregnant without having slept with some guy. But it's all so confusing given the situation. So, Reddit, what are your thoughts? Does my girlfriend have a case of lesbian immaculate conception, or am I being a fool for doubting that she cheated on me? How do I handle the situation, and how do I talk to her? Everything feels very confusing right now. Thanks in advance for reading. Wow, what a post. So much going on here. Let's jump straight into the comments and see if the people of Reddit had any sort of idea what might have happened. I'm not even sure what to think right now. Somebody said, I think you know the right answer here. You don't just get magically pregnant. Yeah, she could have hidden it and secretly gotten an abortion, but in all likelihood, she didn't think anything of it until it was too late. Maybe they used a condom and it broke, or he pulled out or something and she was convinced it couldn't be a pregnancy, or just didn't want to believe it. Denial is extremely powerful. Some people will deny till the day they die, but she is in a relationship with you, a woman, and she's pregnant. This isn't one you can deny. Logic says she may as well come clean, but good luck with that. 99.9% chance she cheated. The only other explanation is she was drugged and assaulted or something, but that is a big leap into the let's find a way to rationalize this zone. Good luck with this. My money is on she was unfaithful, as it's the obvious effing answer. Oh, yeah, I think this is true. I mean, I don't want to believe it, but this has to be the most obvious answer, right? I mean, there's no other way this could have happened, surely. If she is pregnant, then she has to have had sex with a man. It's just a fact, right? I mean, as you said, unless she is the coming, once again, of Mary, the mother of Jesus, then I don't know what else is going on here. OP replied to this comment saying, maybe the answer that she cheated is obvious here, but it's also difficult to explain to a bunch of strangers just how upset she was when she told me. I can't expect internet strangers to know the intimacies of our relationship, but I wouldn't be posting here if I didn't think there was a slight chance that she was actually telling me the truth. That is a good point. Only you, OP, know in that moment when you had that conversation face to face and you could see how distraught she was. Only you know, based on everything that's happened over the past couple of months as well, from when she did get pregnant. You should be able, I don't know, maybe I'm wrong here, but I feel like you would know in that moment, or you'd at least get a massive sort of inkling as to whether or not she was telling the truth or she wasn't. Because, I don't know, like if you know someone that well, yeah, they could be an amazing liar, but I think when you know someone that well, 9 times out of 10, you know if they're 100% telling the truth or if they're not. You could just sort of sense it. Things don't add up. You just know that they're not telling you everything. The thing I'm not getting is like the months of her being really concerned about her weight gain, and if she had slept with a man, wouldn't that be one of the first things that comes into your head? The fact that you may be pregnant? Surely, even if you'd slept with a man with a condom or, you know, pulled out or whatever, that would still come into your head, surely. I mean, it just would have to as a you know, a possibility, not a likely one, but a possibility. So the fact that she just didn't even think about that once the entire time, I mean, maybe she did and just didn't tell you. I don't know. Let's see what happens anyway. That's the beauty of this subreddit. Here is an update. So, a lot has happened since the original post. Thank you to everyone that responded with helpful comments. It seems like most people came to 3 possible conclusions with Anna's pregnancy. First of all, she cheated on me and got pregnant. Second, she was the victim of a drugging scenario and doesn't remember anything. And third, the doctor is wrong. Wow. I didn't even consider that third option, but that could be true, I suppose. I mean, there's a world in which she isn't actually pregnant, although do doctors get that sort of stuff wrong that often? Maybe they do. But anyway, This update, comes 3 days after the original. After spending the night at my friend's house and ignoring Anna's calls and texts, I decided to see her the next day to talk. We made a plan to meet at our house after work. I wasn't sure what to expect from our conversation. I thought I might get a confession of her cheating on me or something along those lines. So we met at home. She asked me how I was doing, and I told her that I was still pretty confused and upset. She understood. Then I said, I have to know, did you sleep with someone, or cheat on me, or come near sperm in any way, shape or form since we've been together? She swore up and down that she did not. Very sincerely, she said, I know that this is freaking crazy and literally unbelievable, but I swear to God, I didn't cheat on you. I am just as confused as you are. I still wasn't entirely convinced, so I asked her about the doctor's visit specifically. She did not get an ultrasound. They only took a urine sample. I guess she told them her symptoms. They took a urine sample, concluded she was pregnant, and sent her on her way. I asked why they gave her then a specific gestation period, and she didn't know. I'm not entirely sure why they did either. Of course, I was like, did you tell the doctor it's impossible that you're pregnant? That you've been with a woman for the last 4 years? And the doctor gave her grief for it. Essentially implied that she must have slept with a man because she's pregnant, and that's why she was experiencing her symptoms. I'm not sure if this is a common occurrence for a doctor, but she said he seemed completely unfazed by her claims of not having slept with a man. For those of you that mentioned her period, Anna has an irregular period. Sometimes she gets it, sometimes she doesn't, so there was no cause for alarm when she didn't get her period for 3 months. Because A, she can't get pregnant, and B, more sex for us. I guess the doctor saw the signs of a positive pregnancy test and a lack of period, and pregnancy was the most reasonable option. After hearing about that, I said that she should schedule another doctor's appointment with a different doctor as soon as possible. She told me that she had and had the appointment the next day, which was yesterday at the time of writing. We decided it was best that I go with her to the appointment. Again, this isn't adding up. If she has cheated and your partner is saying to you, look, come, I promise you I'm being honest. I just don't think that would happen. Maybe it would. The denial would still be going on, but anyway. The first order of business with the new doctor was the ultrasound. I sat with Anna as they put the gel on her stomach, and I was honestly sweating bullets. I kept thinking to myself, what if she is actually pregnant? I thought I was going to pass out, but Anna seemed calm. They confirmed that Anna is not pregnant, but she had a mass on her ovary that was a cause for concern. It was one of the most emotionally confusing moments of my life. Anna and I looked at each other, not sure if we should celebrate the non-pregnancy or cry or what. Anna still has more appointments, but the new doctor gave her the diagnosis of stage 1 ovarian cancer. This explains the positive pregnancy test and the bloated stomach. This also explains why she wasn't able to lose the weight in her stomach. The doctor also mentioned that the irregular periods should have been a sign of concern for Anna, as women with irregular periods can be more at risk for ovarian cancer. I'm devastated and hopeful. Anna is still in shock, as she's been through a lot in the past couple of days. I'm supporting her the best I can, and we are figuring out a game plan. Naturally, we're both terrified of what's to come. This will be a huge part of her life, and mine, and probably put our plans to get engaged, or get married, or have kids on hold, if she can even have kids after all of this. Anna even joked about the fact that she wishes she actually had been pregnant with the Messiah. That way we could keep the kid and not have this horrible diagnosis. So, I guess this is a happy/sad update. Thank you to everyone for reading. Goodness me, I wasn't expecting that. And I'm not quite sure how to react to that. On the one hand, you find out that your partner hasn't cheated on you with a man and wasn't lying about her being pregnant. On the other hand, she now has cancer. Yeah, it's kind of a lose-lose there, but there we go. Let's get into the comments before I give my final thoughts. Somebody said, I'm so sorry to hear this. The first doctor, though, who was so submissive of her insistence that she hadn't slept with a man, he should probably be scolded for this. Opie replied, when she explained his reaction to me, I was livid. Call me an angry, man-hating lesbian, but the second doctor was a woman, and she was honestly one of the most helpful and supportive doctors I have ever encountered. So there we go. I don't really know what to think about this. Whether you see this as good news or bad news. Let me know in the comments down below. What do you think? Is this overall good news or bad news? At least it's stage 1, which is the best stage you can get if there is a best stage you can get of any cancer. I think I'll have to look this up, but I do believe that the majority of people who are diagnosed at stage 1 of ovarian cancer survive and then have a very healthy rest of their life, a normal life expectancy after that. So the 5-year survival rate is significantly high, typically around 93 to 95%. I mean, it's still not great, but 95 out of 100 women apparently will survive their cancer for 5 years or more after diagnosed. Okay, I mean, to be honest, those odds are pretty horrible, but you know, at least she hasn't cheated on you and isn't pregnant with someone else's baby. Like, it's a horrible thing, obviously, to get cancer. Don't get me wrong, but I'm inclined to say that honestly, this is not the worst possible outcome for you, OP, and for you two together. Like, I don't know, you guys have been together for 4 years, right? You're 29 now. Your girlfriend's 27. You know, you're probably thinking of each other as potential life partners. I mean, you've spoken about having children in the future, getting married, etc. So you are. If you then find out that actually she has cheated on you with a guy and she's pregnant, that is just, I don't know where you go from there in your life. But at least now you know the truth and you guys can work together on this and get through this. And yeah, as I just looked at the stats there, you've got a great chance of having a great life together, which obviously if she had cheated on you with a guy, you had probably a 0% chance of having a great life together. So obviously not a great thing, but honestly, I think the other option was worse. But let me know in the comments down below. I mean, it seems a bit weird saying, oh, the cancer option is the best option. But yes, let me know, is this a relatively positive update or still a negative update? If you get what I mean, comment down below. I'm interested to hear your guys' thoughts. As always, I am a 22-year-old woman, and I've been with my boyfriend, who is 24, for 3 years. Recently, he found out that his ex is engaged, and he literally won't stop crying. This was originally posted on March the 23rd, 2014, an absolute classic over 10 years ago. So, I met my boyfriend 3 years ago through some mutual friends. He was pretty guarded, and I was the one that pursued him. We were long distance. I was living in Oregon, he was living in Washington, until I moved in with him last year. My boyfriend has only had one other relationship and a hookup before me. He stopped talking to the hookup a long time ago because she was crazy, but he kept in touch with his ex until she cut contact with him around 2 years ago. They dated when he was 15 and it lasted for around 2 years, and then she dumped him because, quote, he had no self-respect. Apparently, she's the reason why my boyfriend is so guarded now. I'll admit that I was really jealous of her and was glad when she cut contact with him, because she's beautiful, and my boyfriend talked about her as if she had all of life's answers. This past January, I woke up in the middle of the night and I heard my boyfriend crying quietly. I could tell that he was looking at his phone, and I wasn't sure whether or not to say anything, since I wasn't sure if he just wanted a private moment or not. After a while, he got up to go to the bathroom, so I took a peek at his phone. He was on Facebook, looking at his ex's profile. She'd gotten engaged, and there were pictures of the ring and everything. It's been 2 months now, and my boyfriend has been breaking down out of nowhere. I keep asking him to talk to me about it, but he won't. I told him to talk to a therapist, and he got really insulted and said that he doesn't believe in therapy. I'm unsure of what to do, since this happens at least twice a week. I love him, but he's always seemed a bit distant to me, and obviously this woman is the reason why. Should I contact her and ask her if she has any insight? I'm starting to think that she must have said something to upset him like this, because he didn't seem that bothered when his ex was dating other people. Okay, so there we go for the original post. A lot going on there. I'm not quite sure how to react to that, to be honest. Yeah, your boyfriend is a little odd. There's clearly a lot of past trauma or just thoughts there. He's not over her, that's for sure. Anyway, let's jump into the comments. Somebody said this. Right, okay, no, don't contact her. Her job is finished. If her ex still has problems with their relationship, that's his issue. Now you, Missy, do not play Miss Fix-It here. You can't fix the fact that your boyfriend is actually still in love with another woman. You can be the most perfect woman on earth, but while he still has her as his dream woman, you don't have anything. I mean, that is probably what's going on here, let's be honest. Honestly, and as hard as this may be, I talked to him about it again. And then if there is no resolution, I'd consider moving on. You deserve someone who thinks you are the best woman on earth, not some distant ex from his high school years. Good luck, OP, and big hugs. This sucks balls. OP replied to this saying, "Thank you for your reply. I was insecure about my boyfriend's relationship with his ex from the start. They didn't talk that often, but they'd catch up once every few months through Skype or something. She lives on the East Coast, and when Hurricane Sandy hit her, he called her, texted her, and messaged her on Skype, despite her having cut off contact with him prior to that. I didn't even know that he still had her phone number. Is this relationship hopeless? I knew that he still had a bit of a thing for her, but I didn't know the extent of it until now. If he can't move on after all this time, I don't really understand why he got into a relationship with me." Yep, very, very valid point. Then that same person replied, saying, "Sometimes we think we are more emotionally available than we actually are. And I want you to know, this is not your fault. I find this happens with people who run away from their feelings and don't process grief. It all comes back and bites them in the bum. Big time. He probably didn't know it at the time when he got with you that he was like this, and now it's just spiraled out of his control. It's gonna be rough, and I'm sorry. You sound like an exceptionally loving and patient girlfriend, actually. To be honest, he sounds like a bit of a jerk putting his ex-girlfriend before you emotionally. And no, I think in the long term, you'll find it to be an uphill battle with him. I think a massive turnaround is highly unlikely if he's this bad 3 years into your relationship. 3 years is a lot to give up on, I know, but think about it. Wouldn't you rather be with someone who thinks you are the most amazing woman in the world? And that is a great point. It's not like this is just a short-term thing. This has been a thing for your boyfriend, OP, for a very, very long time now. Arguably, 7 years, right? And it doesn't look like it's going to change anytime soon. So maybe you got to get out. OP replied to this saying, "Look, I love him. From the moment I saw him, I knew that I wanted to be with him. He's incredibly smart and charming, but you're right. I've always felt insignificant in comparison to his ex, and I don't think that I realized quite how much." If I think about it though, there were clues that I didn't pick up on. When we first started dating, I told him at some point that he didn't seem to want to open up to me. And he told me that it was because his ex had taught him not to become too vulnerable. I thought this would pass as we got more serious about each other, and he did open up a bit more, but whenever he caught up with his ex, he'd be distant with me again for a while. I don't know why his ex cut off contact with him, but after she did, he did seem more invested in our relationship, and so I had hope for us. He was the one that asked if I wanted to move in with him. But now this happened, and he barely wants to talk to me. Okay, interesting stuff. Let's get into the first update here. This was posted 2 days after the original post. It's over, I think. I called my dad and asked him to help me move back home. These last 2 days have been really emotional. My boyfriend was gone all day yesterday. He was gone when I woke up. That's fine, I assume he went to work early. But then he still wasn't home when I went to bed. I texted him once when I woke up to say good morning, and twice at night. One asking if he was coming home for dinner, and another asking if he was alright. I also tried calling his cell, but he didn't pick up. I thought that I deserved some answers, so I decided to snoop. Something that I've done once before when I was feeling insecure about his relationship with his ex. Well, on his laptop, hidden in a bunch of subfolders, was an MS document with his ex's name. I read it, and I'm assuming that he just saved the last conversation that he had with her right before she cut contact with him. It started out normally, but then he asked her how her relationship with her now fiancé, boyfriend, was going. She said that it was good, and that she was happy. And then it got weird because he said something like, "Really? Are you sure?" She said yeah, and said that was a weird question. And he said, "I don't know, I don't believe that you're that happy." I don't remember everything exactly because my head was spinning, but he basically told her that her fiancé, then boyfriend, will never treat her as well as he did, and that they've known each other X number of years and managed to stay friends after their breakup, that they've helped each other grow as people, and that she should really give him another chance. He said that he's waited for her all these years and that he loves her and always believed they'd wind up together. This was all while he was with me. She called him a jerk and told him that he had a lot of balls to say all of that to her when she told him a long time ago that they're only ever going to be friends, and that he's an even bigger jerk for doing this while they were both in relationships. She told him to go to hell and to break up with me for my sake because I deserve better. But that is not even the worst part. My boyfriend woke me up this morning by calling my cell and told me to come to the kitchen. He said that he made breakfast. So I go to the kitchen, getting ready for a fight. He and I never fight, but I'm so goddamn hurt. And he made what honestly looked like an amazing breakfast with a ring box in the middle of the table. He told me to open it. I did. He says something like, "These last 3 years with me have been an adventure, and he hopes to keep making new adventures with me." I guess around this time, I snap out of whatever haze I've been in, and I exploded. I demanded to know where he was all day yesterday, why he wouldn't contact me, why he's been crying over his ex for the last 3 months, everything. He got mad at me for being mad. He told me that I should be happy because he was proposing, and wasn't that what I wanted? I asked him why when it's so obvious he'd rather be with his ex. He told me that she's obviously moved on, so it's time for him to move on too. I cannot believe what I am reading. Just phenomenal stuff. I've never been so angry in my life. I've been so incredibly patient with this man, and I've done my best to be understanding of his situation. I've literally given him all that I had, but I'm not going to get married to him just to be his consolation prize. It's so ironic, because had he proposed 4+ months earlier, I would have been ecstatic. Now, it just broke our relationship. So yeah, I called my dad, crying, and he's on his way to help me move back in with him and my mum. That's it. I'm a wreck. But I think it's just because everything wrong and twisted in this relationship is hitting me, and it took so long for me to understand. And my ex is just sitting on the couch with his laptop. Thank you guys for helping me see how unfair this whole relationship was. I read every one of your comments, even if I didn't get a chance to respond to them all. Okay, so there we go. That is it for the first update. Crazy scenes. That was the unbelievable twist that I was talking about in the introduction. And stuff like that, moments like that in stories, is the reason why I record the introduction after I've read the story, so I can let you guys know that something crazy is going to happen. I always read these stories live without knowing what's going to happen myself, so you get my honest reaction, but the intro I do afterwards for that exact reason. Now, I noticed this heavily downvoted and then deleted comment that said he made a mistake. People have made bigger mistakes before and overcome it. He was putting you number one by proposing to you. You said you had 3 years of a happy relationship together before this. Although he had a temporary lapse in judgment, he still wants you. You're looking for an incredibly perfect fairy tale where everything plays out exactly like you wanted it. After you break up, you'll start to realize all the things he did to say and show he loved you, things that should trump this revelation. Sounds like things are your way or the highway. Hopefully, if another man loves you, he'll be willing to put up with that. Wow, what a comment. That's got to be one of the worst comments I've ever read on Reddit, and it just shows that although in general I do respect and value the people of Reddit and their opinions, sometimes I should probably pull back on that a little bit, reading stuff like that. Opie actually replied to this saying, "I did think my relationship was happy, yeah, but I didn't know that my ex was declaring his love for his ex-girlfriend and trying to win her back while he was still with me. Nor did I know that once she blocked him from Facebook, he was logging into my account to keep tabs on her." Oh my goodness. If you honestly believe that someone that's been crying for 3 months over an ex's engagement really wanted to be with me, you're in the minority. And judging by the fact that he had bought the ring the day before he proposed, he really hadn't been planning on it at all. I'm astounded by your comment, honestly. Okay then, now that we've got that comment out of the way, let's get into the second update of this one, posted 3 weeks after the last update on April the 15th, 2014. First, I want to thank everyone that commented on my last post. I really took your comments to heart, and all of the support means the world to me. I took a break from Reddit, but I logged in today to find a few PMs asking for another update, so here goes. My ex went more or less crazy after I moved back home. I blocked him from essentially everything, changed all of my passwords, and deactivated my Facebook, so he had no way of reaching me aside from literally driving to my parents' house to see me. Apparently, he started sending messages to my friends, some of them are mutuals, asking to use their Skype accounts to talk to me. He told them that I stole some things from him when I moved out, and he wanted them back. I got a few phone calls from my friends asking me about this. They told me that they knew I didn't steal anything from him because that's not like me at all, but they wanted to know why he was so desperate to contact me. I wasn't ready to tell the whole story. Honestly, I didn't think that anyone would believe me, So I told them that I didn't know what was going on, but I asked them to not give them their Skype accounts by any means. A few days after that, the phone calls started, all from a few different numbers that I didn't recognize. I didn't pick any of them up, but one day I'd have about 20 missed calls from one number, then another 20 plus from a different number. I had to set my phone to only allow calls from specific numbers, otherwise it would just go straight to voicemail. Even if he couldn't reach me, he succeeded in making me feel pretty isolated. After the 5th day of the phone calls, I broke down and I told my mum everything that happened. She didn't say much, she mostly let me talk. Afterwards, she told me that I made the right decision, but that there's absolutely no reason why I should be going through this alone. She said that she didn't want to push me to tell her what happened until I was ready, but that the best thing that I could be doing right now is spending time with people that love and support me. So, after going with me to get my phone number changed, she encouraged me to start calling my friends and telling them what happened, and to just hang out with them more in general. I had it stuck in my head that everyone would side with my ex and tell me that I made a terrible mistake, that his intentions were good, and I blew things out of proportion by insinuating that he only proposed because his ex-girlfriend got engaged. But I was actually overwhelmed by my friends' responses. Apparently, my ex had been telling everyone that we broke up because I had major jealousy issues over his ex. But once they heard my side of the story, I was actually shocked by how many of them said that it made sense. They've all told me that I've done the right thing and that they'd back me up no matter what. I just felt this huge sense of relief, and I've been making an effort to go out more. I'll be honest though, there are times where I wonder if I was wrong. Sometimes I think that maybe my ex had been grieving over his old relationship and proposing to me was his way of starting over. Sometimes I think that I turned down the only marriage proposal that I'll ever get, and sometimes I think that maybe I should have accepted because I loved him. And you don't often find people that you truly love. But then on the days that I'm feeling wiser, I remind myself of how bizarre our last few weeks together were, how I always knew deep down that I was second best for him, and how he's been behaving since we broke up. I've never seen him so unstable. He was always so calm and logical, so this is completely new to me. I know deep down that I did the right thing, but sometimes what you know in your head and feel in your heart are so completely different. So that's basically it. I'm just going through the motions and I'm going to make an appointment with a therapist. I wish that I had something more profound to update you guys with, some added wisdom, but I don't. My best advice for anyone going through something similar is what my mum told me. Surround yourself with people that love and support you. Okay, and then 2 months after that, on June the 1st, 2014, we got the final update. Hello Reddit. I just wanted to update you guys on some things that have happened. I also wanted to apologize for not responding to any of the comments in my last post. I wasn't in a great place at the time and I wasn't feeling up to it. But I did read each of your responses and I truly appreciate those who took the time to comment. First, my ex mailed me the engagement ring that he bought shortly after my last update. I didn't know what to do with it. I wasn't sure if the ring was what he had been claiming that I stole. I also felt weird about mailing it back, because what if he claimed that he never got it? So my dad volunteered to personally deliver the ring back to him. I don't know if anything was said when my dad brought it back, and I never asked. Second, I heard from some friends that 2 weeks ago, my ex bought a ticket and flew to New York to try and talk to his ex. Somehow he found out the name of the company that she worked for, looked up its location, and waited in front of the building all day. I've got no idea what happened, but apparently there aren't any signs of her coming back, so I'm assuming that it didn't go very well. I can't believe that he did that. And I can't believe that I dated someone that was that crazy for 3 years. But I suppose it helps every time I hear about something like this, because it reinforces the fact that I did the right thing. I met with 2 therapists. I wasn't a huge fan of the first one. Every time that I said something, he'd ask, "And how do you feel about that?" No feedback or suggestions whatsoever. At the end, he suggested that I was depressed and might want to consider a few different medications. I don't intend on seeing that guy again. I met the second one last week though, and I liked her a lot. She told me that she doesn't think that I need to see her regularly, but to feel free to make appointments whenever I'm feeling especially down or stressed. So I think I'll do that. A few people asked why I wanted to see a therapist in my last post, because I seemed to be doing the right things. Well, the problem was that even though I knew I was doing the right thing, I didn't necessarily feel that it was right. I still doubted myself and I felt like a different person than I used to be. Prior to this mess, I was always very optimistic and happy in general. I always tried to make the best of things. But at the time of my last post, I felt down. And even though I was making an effort to see friends, I wasn't really enjoying it. Anyway, this brings me to where I am now. I started a paid internship with the chance of getting hired full-time almost a month ago, and I love it. I love the people, the work itself, and the fact that I'm getting back into a routine. And I'm a little embarrassed to say that I'm attracted to the guy that hired me, who's about my age. There's nothing going on, and I'm definitely not ready or willing to be in a relationship. It's simply the fact that he is the nicest, best-mannered person I've ever met. He's always positive, polite, and smiling, so it's impossible not to be in a good mood around him. So it's not that I think my next relationship should be with him or that I have feelings for him. It's just that I've realized that the type of person that I should be looking for is someone that makes me feel good just by being around them. I don't give much thought to my ex anymore. It's amazing how much life changes over the course of a few months, but I think that everything is turning out for the best. Wow, there we go. That is the end of that story. What a creep. I don't even know who I feel worse for necessarily. OP or the ex of OP's ex now, if that makes sense. The girl that your ex OP was going after, had been with, and yeah, still is arguably stalking. I mean, like, yeah, just a creep, an absolute creep. Crazy. And again, like, I know I do often say this at the end of stories like this, but it is good that you know now, at least. That is the truth. And the fact that you're like now, a few months after, you seem all right, and you've said at the end there you don't even think about your ex that much. I mean, that is a good sign. It is so crazy though, like what you've said at the end there, as in how much your life has changed in just a few months. Imagine that you never found out about this at all. That your ex wasn't crying in bed that time. Like, you weren't there. And you just never really clocked how obsessed he still was over his ex. And then he proposes to you anyway. You don't know about, obviously, all his past trauma. You accept. You say yes. You marry him. You have kids. The guy's never over his ex the entire time. I mean, like, if you think about it like that, then you have to see this as a positive. You know, I don't like saying that, because I'm like, well, you have loved someone for that long, and a breakup is never nice. But I feel okay saying it this time more than most, because of what you said at the end about how you're already like, okay, there are other people I like. I know I've loved this person, but he wasn't the right person for me, and I'm getting over it. But yeah, the main thing to think about is, what a weird guy. I'm just thinking about the timing here. So your ex-boyfriend and his ex broke up at age 17. And it's 7 years later. 7 years later, and this guy is still disaffected. I mean, to be honest, maybe I feel sorry for him as well. 7 years later. You were with each other for 2 years. This guy definitely needs some serious therapy, or he is going to be pretty effed for a long time. People are actually saying in the comments down below, that one comment bashing her was definitely the boyfriend. Imagine he found the post and knew it was her. I don't know. I mean, just quickly rereading that, I mean, it could be. He made a mistake. People have made bigger mistakes before and overcome it. He was putting you number one by proposing to you. Oh, I don't know. I mean, it'd be a bit weird of him to do that, but clearly he's a weird guy, and yeah, what a strange man. And OP, I'm sorry that you didn't find out sooner. My girlfriend outed me to my family. Now, before we get into this, first of all, here is a quick note from the author who compiled the original posts and the updates together. They say, since this is going to probably result in some age gap discussion, per OP's response to comments, he was first introduced to this woman when he was 18 years old. He started a relationship with her when he was 21 or 22, depending on where birthdays fall. Okay, let's get into the original post. This came on March the 12th, 2025. I am a 24-year-old man and she is a 31-year-old woman. I'm bisexual, but it's not something I talk about, especially not with my family. Admittedly, I've never had a public boyfriend or what could be described as a relationship with a man. As far as my family knows, I'm straight. My girlfriend and I have been together for 2 years and I only recently introduced her to my family. On the last day of the visit to my parents, we were all outside around the fire. Some people, including my girlfriend, were drinking wine. That is when she made a comment about me being bisexual. Everyone heard. I froze up in that moment, and I gave her a look. She laughed it off, played with my hair, and kept talking. Luckily, it came across as a joke to most of my family, but not my dad. His demeanor that night changed, and the morning before I left, he was being distant. I just know he's thinking about what she said. It's really messing with my head. To give you a bit of an idea about him, he's very rigid, conservative. I started modeling some years ago, and he's had a hard time with that. When I went to Europe for work, and he saw some of the editorials my mum showed him, he hated the looks, and I became very selective of what I share. I'm back in my city now, and I live with my girlfriend. I'm so angry at her, but she claims it was a slip up from being drunk. Personally, no amount of alcohol would have me outing someone in front of their family. She only had 1 glass of wine. Instead of apologizing, she's focusing on how I should just distance myself from my family if they won't accept me. So, am I the jerk here for hanging on to this? My girlfriend thinks I am being immature and holding on to a grudge. Just a quick edit to include. My girlfriend knows that I'm bi. I do disclose that to my partners, I just don't disclose publicly. I think it's unnecessary and not anyone's business who I'm attracted to, except the people I'm involved with. My girlfriend also knew that I wasn't out to family, and even though she only met them recently, she knows how they are. Okay, let's get into the comments here, and I picked out one in particular. Somebody said, "You're not the jerk, and she did that on purpose. I think your dad is mad that he heard that from someone other than you. You should take her advice and also distance yourself from her." Question, does she have an issue with you being bi? Has she given you any sense that she does? Now, I agree with half of this comment. First of all, I do believe that she did that on purpose. If you've had 1 glass of wine, I'm sorry, but you're not drunk. I mean, even if you're a little bit tipsy after a glass of wine, that's no excuse to out your partner to their family, something that you know that their family doesn't know, and they don't want their family to know either. I'm sorry, a glass of wine, you can't just say, "Oh, I didn't mean to. I was drunk." That's not going to run with me. However, I also don't think that that means that she may have an issue with you being bi at all. She may have just said it, and who knows why. We don't really know quite yet, but we're going to get into more of this. As I said, there are a couple of updates to this one. And I also wouldn't know at this moment in time if your dad is mad that he heard it from someone other than you, or if he's mad that you may be bisexual. You know, that's a big difference. I mean, it's a shame that your dad is mad anyway, but yes, there's more to come here. Opie actually replied to this comment saying she doesn't have an issue with me being bi. She's actually been sort of proud about it when amongst our friends. In hindsight, I think that's a red flag that I didn't notice. Now that is interesting. Being proud of someone's sexuality. Very, very strange. It's almost like she is, I don't know, showing off that you're bi. I mean, I don't think someone else's sexuality is something to be proud of. I mean, the way they go about living their life and, yeah, being honest with their sexuality and whatever, that's great. But, like, their actual sexuality itself, I'm not sure. By the way, I'm not saying, like, people shouldn't be proud to be straight or gay or whatever they are. That's completely fine. It's just like, if my partner was bisexual, would I be like, "Oh, I'm so proud that you're bisexual"? No, I'd just be like, "Well, you're bisexual, that's your sexuality, that's it." Anyway, let's get into the first update here. This came 11 days later. I wanted to thank everyone for reading and responding to my situation. I tried to have a healthy conversation with my girlfriend to communicate how I felt, but it wasn't getting anywhere. Why is it so difficult to acknowledge a mistake and apologize? She said she's stressed out about work, and instead of being a support to her, I'm adding on to her stress by being hung up on this issue. Great, so she's gaslighting you and making you feel as if this is your fault. Okay. It's not that I'm hung up on it. She refused to, at any point, let me express anything. It stretched out our conflict, which could have been resolved in one meaningful discussion. Even during this conversation, she walked away from me. So I decided to take a shower. When I got out, I was using the hairdryer. I couldn't hear that well over the thing, and sometimes you think you heard something, but it's nothing. But after a few seconds, I turned it off to listen. It was definitely like a scream or a yell. Immediately, I went to the kitchen. She had dropped some glasses and cut her foot. She was sitting on the floor. I helped her. She told me she's just overwhelmed and has too many things to think about lately. After a few minutes, the bleeding had pretty much stopped, but she insisted on having me take her to the ER. I told her she'll be waiting for hours for nothing. She doesn't need stitches. This is when she just exploded. We were still on the floor. She pulled her hands out of mine and slapped me. It was so fast. My face was close to hers when it happened. I didn't see it coming. She just started yelling at me to get away from her and saying, "You really don't care. You took so long to come because you've been holding a grudge against me," referring to the incident at my parents and some other stuff. I comforted her until she calmed down. She's never done anything like this before. And I guess when she hit me, she ended up scratching my face with her nail and it was bleeding a little. I hadn't noticed, but she did, and she apologized and wanted to take me into the bathroom to clean the blood and put ointment on it. I told her it's fine, but she got really fixated on taking care of me and started getting upset again because I said it was fine, so I gave in. The next day, she posted on her Instagram story a little picture of her foot in a bandage. I didn't think anything of this post, but this weekend I learned that she'd cancelled some plans with friends, claiming we had an incident. But I think she made it seem like I did something wrong. The reason I think this is because one of her friends that I'm working on a project with said something like, "Resorting to violence is a red flag." I asked him to explain what the frick he means. He refused to clarify. I talked to my girlfriend about it, but she's pleasant with me, fusses over my scratch, which is barely even there anymore, and she says she doesn't know what the friend was talking about. She even apologized for how she handled what she said in front of my family. Now I feel like a jerk. I know this felt long-winded, but I didn't know how else to explain why I feel so emotionally exhausted. I'm starting to realize that maybe I was too focused on my own fear of what my family overheard that night that I stopped paying attention to everything else. About my dad. Since my last update, I also reached out to him and asked him if anything that was said the night before I left made him feel a certain way, and if he wanted to talk about it with me. He said he was confused by what she said. I'm bisexual? What's that supposed to mean? I'm glad we had a conversation. I think it was a first of many that we're going to have in the future, and although it didn't feel as cathartic or even much of a relief like I thought it would, we ended on a note that felt like at least we could have more talks. Personally, I just hate labels and having to explain sexuality to anyone, but I understand that in the long run it's probably a good thing to be open with family. I'm trying. Now, although that update, guys, seems like it ended on a relatively positive note, maybe OP's relationship is coming back together slowly, but there seems to be more of an understanding there. That's a good update, I suppose, with your dad OP as well. The people of Reddit were not so positive. Somebody said, and this was a very upvoted comment, "For F's sake, she outed you to your family and then she assaulted you. Move on." OP replied, "It's not assault because it wasn't intentional. She was just overwhelmed in the moment and apologized right after. She's never hit me before. She eventually apologized for outing me too, so I think this is all on me. I was too focused on my POV that I missed what was going on with her." Later on, OP actually added an edit to this comment, continuing, "I've been reading comments all day. It's been helpful in realizing how abnormal my understanding of everything is. The narrative I was holding onto is slowly starting to fall apart. But when I step away from my phone and have an interaction with her, it's really hard to maintain the clarity. I don't know how to explain. But there's a few comments I saved that I'm going to keep reading over and over to try to hold on to reality. I don't know what to do next, but I'm going to ask for help. I feel way in over my head right now. Thanks for helping me. Even if I don't reply, I probably read your comment and I'm grateful for it." So there we go. A few hours later, OP has read a comment like that and another comment that we'll get into in just a second where, yeah, the people of Reddit were, as I said, less positive and more saying to OP, you know, you're feeling a certain way, but actually you're not seeing the truth here. You need to get out. So somebody said, "Nobody on Reddit is going to make you leave her, but just picture what happens when you really anger her. I have a friend who is 6'4", rugby build. His partner was 5'3", small built, and not remotely scary. Until she cut him off from all friends and family and eventually started slipping meds in his drinks. He's lucky he escaped alive. You think it can't be you until it is you." OP replied saying, "We have that almost same size difference, and I think that also makes it hard for me to see her in the way I should be seeing her, because I always feel like it's me who should be more careful. I don't know, like in that moment I started to wonder if I intimidated her or got too close to her when she was overwhelmed and needed space, things like that. I'm just sharing how I saw it, not saying that I'm right. I'm not being defensive, I'm just giving context. So I appreciate what you shared because it's making me rethink. All the comments are kind of hitting me really hard right now. I might stop replying. It doesn't mean I'm not listening or that I disagree. I'm trying to absorb it. I came on here because something doesn't feel right, but I couldn't figure out why. So thank you. There we go. I mean, that is the reason, I suppose, for posting this in the first place. OP wasn't exactly sure whether to trust his gut on this or his own internal monologue. Or was he actually seeing this in the wrong way? Was there more to this? Was he being too lenient on his girlfriend? And I think the answer is probably yes. This commenter replied once more saying, "Kid, you're delulu. What are you waiting for her to do? What would be enough to convince you that this isn't normal?" OP said, "I don't know. It feels confusing. I don't know why the normal response for me is to make excuses for her. I need to stop doing that." And then finally, 2 days later, just a week ago at the time of recording, on March 25th, we got the final update. Your comments have been overwhelming, but I'm taking them to heart. I appreciate the stories you shared with me. They are what helped the most. I told someone this in a DM, but if it wasn't for the personal experiences that were shared with me, I think I would have stayed. It was really hard not to argue against the advice that I was initially receiving. I can't explain why exactly I felt this strong compulsion to go on the defensive, but I'm starting to realize my perception is actually very distorted. It's something I'm still struggling with a lot, and it feels like I need constant reminders or reality checks to hold on to the understanding I've gained. Because there is a lot of concern being expressed, I just wanted to come on and share that I am okay. Don't worry about me. I'm trying to come up with an exit strategy, but it's complicated. I mostly just wanted to reassure you and thank you. Goodness me. That is it for the update. Somebody commented, this actually reads like a hostage note. Still, I'll say run for the hills, OP, and document everything she does to you. OP replied, I promise it's not. I'm just so freaking depleted. And there we go. Okay, guys, a lot to unpack there. Goodness me. It's crazy. The one thing I want to start off with is the fact that, there definitely is abuse going on here, right? Physical abuse for sure. Emotional abuse as well, like gaslighting. So that is a fact. And, with that information, I think OP can choose what he does or doesn't do. But I think understanding the fact that this is abuse is the first step. Because I think before reading the comments and posting on Reddit, I don't think OP saw it as this. I mean, he was saying himself, like, she didn't mean to do it. It was a mistake, blah, blah, blah. She's apologized, etc. In reality, no, like looking at it from the outside in, and that is easier, obviously, compared to being within it yourself and having all your feelings. Yeah, there is abuse going on there. I think we can all agree on that. The second point I want to make, it's more of a discussion, I suppose. But as a bigger individual, right, this guy is what? He said he was 6'4", rugby build, something like that. A big boy, okay? And his girlfriend is what, 5'3", small. That in itself is really interesting because in reality, in terms of like a physical confrontation where nothing else is involved, you are you're pretty much never ever going to be in any danger, right? You're 6'4", she's 5'3". It's like a complete mismatch. But because of that, I think it actually means that sometimes the women in this can get away with doing more, and the bigger guy thinks, well, yeah, she slapped me a few times, she's been emotionally abusive, but I'm 6'4", she's 5'3", like, come on, what can she really do? But as the comments are saying here, like, it's just a sort of, it's a matter of time perhaps before something more serious happens. And yeah, it might start with a little slap and just a few bits of gaslighting, but it could end up with much more serious outcomes. I mean, yeah, medication, a weapon could be involved, whatever. Just because you're not at risk right now doesn't mean that you might not be in the future. It is strange though. Like, I mean, I'm quite a big guy as well, and I wouldn't ever feel threatened by someone that's 5'3", but that actually isn't the case. Like, someone that's 5'3" could do a lot of damage to me, just probably not as much physically. But it doesn't have to be just, a pure physical fight. I mean, as the comments are saying, yeah, OP could be in serious danger. I mean, the fact of the matter is that now, because of Reddit, I think he's got to the right conclusion that he's got to get out. And knowing that is the first step. But without Reddit, I mean, he's on the path to, potentially a lifetime of abuse, which no one really wants in a relationship. I'm going to be honest. People in the comments on the r/best of post are saying, that maybe the girlfriend actually cut her foot on purpose to test him, and make herself a bigger / more wounded victim than him to get him to baby her after what she did. And I actually am slightly agreeing with that, or at least she used that, right, because of the Instagram post. Like, it's very, very strange to post about an injury on your Instagram that is like a cut of your foot. That's odd, isn't it? Let's be honest. So it's some sort of power play there. And she knows that other people are going to see it. She's called it an incident, whatever. Like, there's a lot of emotional manipulation and yeah, obviously some physical stuff going on here that OP just needs to get out of. But I think the overall question that I've got for you is, if you've got a big boy in a relationship, it doesn't have to be a big boy, it could be the other way around, it could be a big girl and a smaller guy, but like that difference in physical size, it definitely does have an effect on what you would consider abuse. Like, if a 5'2" girl slapped me and I'm like 6'1", how many pounds am I? Quite a lot these days, geez, like 180 maybe a bit more, then I'm just not, I don't really care. But is that wrong? Maybe that's wrong, because if like a guy my height, my weight slapped me, it would obviously hurt a bit more, I imagine, but then I'd be like much more sort of, I'd have the feelings of being in danger, etc. So just because I am the size I am and someone else is the size they are, it doesn't mean that it's not abuse and that I'm not in danger. I think that's the point. But yeah, let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. A very interesting one. And as always, this one is up for debate. Should someone be allowed to do things to somebody else because they're significantly smaller? I think the answer has to be no. And I think OP has now realized that.